Nobody gives a fuck about all these in the past shit. Okay, we're talking about today. Discord. We can talk to people face to face. We can have a conversation with somebody far away across an ocean. I don't give a fuck about 100 years ago. Everybody on these fucking debate panels wants to talk about 100 years ago, Hitler did this and this and this and this.
But it demonstrates how fucking stupid you are.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what there was an increase in technology, which meant nations could communicate better than they could before, and that still didn't stop war. Nowadays, as you say, we've got Discord. Wars still occur. Like there's currently a big thing going on over Russia and Ukraine, right? So why is Discord not sorting that out?
You said 100 years ago. Isn't that talking about the past?
It is talking about the past, but that's what I'm.
Well, Roman.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. I appreciate you all taking time out of your Friday evenings in order to spend it here to have a fiery discourse. Most of you should be familiar with the rules, but I will repeat them anyway. The main rule tonight, as all nights, is you do not talk when I am talking, for I am trying to moderate. I don't care really who wins and loses. I'm not getting involved to give my political opinion. I'm getting involved purely to moderate. If you talk while I am talking, I will mute you. Please do not do that. It makes my job 10 times easier. The second rule is you don't do anything TOS, but of course we all know that. We all want to keep our Twitch channels. The third rule is that you do not talk during people's intro and outro statements. You only talk when it is your time to give an intro and outro statement outside of open discussion. And you do not go after people's immutable characteristics. So, do we all get the idea? Wonderful. You've all been on before. If you're having trouble getting in there due to the format, you can raise your hand and I will write it down on a notepad. Now, do be warned, though, that I would appreciate if you did it as a last resort, not a first resort. I would like conversation to more happen naturally, but if it doesn't, I can regiment it if necessary. Okay. So
I have a question.
Yeah, what's that, Rose?
If people make fun of me for being European, does that fall under not going after people for their immutable characteristics?
Fuck no.
No.
You can move, dude.
Okay.
Hang on a sec. What about being English? What about being English?
That's like the number one thing we're going to come after you for, obviously.
I mean, the worst part is that you're
Chud.
Swedish.
It's us
right?
against all these Americans.
It's
okay.
always okay to make fun
You
of
guys are
people
the
for being
original
English.
colonizers, so obviously you're the worst.
If people are going to come at me for being English, I'm going at Dario for being Bosnian. Okay. You want to open Pandora's box?
Okay.
That's when it gets spicy, Chud.
Go after the Bosnian refugee, of course. You know the
Wow.
left. You know, a lot of socialists don't have a good record when it comes to Bosnia.
I heard this thing about Chud. You know, maybe he's a
maybe
racist,
he's a fan of Noam
so
Chomsky.
maybe that's just his MO is to attack the minorities. So I mean, if
Correct.
that's what he does.
The weakest link. Go after the weakest link. That's the plan.
Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ.
What's the weakest race, Chud?
No.
Oh no.
Oh shit! Obviously the French.
Why did I bring back
True.
Dario? He asked, and I decided to be a decent human for once. One of my worst mistakes. Okay, so we're gonna do intros. We're gonna start in the top left-hand corner with Biggs.
Yeah, so I'm Biggs8500. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm basically I guess I call myself a moderate libertarian. I don't really fit in any specific category. I kind of have ideas from all the best of everybody's political leanings. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Dylan, for having me. I pretty much know, I think, all the people on this panel, except for Dario, maybe. I might have had some interactions with you maybe in the past, but I know everybody else pretty well. So thank you guys for all hanging out, and thanks for having me on, Dylan. I appreciate it, bud.
Next is going to be Chud Logic.
Hello, I'm Chud Logic. If you don't know who I am, then that's a shame or a good thing. I don't really know which. Just come and check me out, Chud Logic, on all good social media platforms. Okay.
You know Chud Logic's special because he's the only VTuber I let on. I've decided to ban Eris again. Because I'm just sick of
Why did you ban Eris?
Because it's funny. Gotta throw it over to Dario.
Yeah, I'm finally back, Dylan. Finally back. To those that don't know me, which is probably most of you at this point, my name is Dario. I would say I'm a libertarian progressive debate gladiator, title pending. I'm a refugee, as Dylan mentioned. I have a master's degree in computer science, and I manage a co-op by day. And I look forward to talking to all of you about some interesting political topics today.
Okay, next we'll throw it over to Fabian.
Yeah, so I am Scott from Fabian Liberty. We are a duo stream of anarcho-capitalists. We do content regarding news. I do a lot of debates. We do some fun stuff on the weekends. Philosophy reading night, which I always get made fun of for here. But you know, that's how it is here. You guys love to hate me. Dario, I'd love to talk about some co-op stuff with you. That sounds super interesting. But I would also like to say, I don't know about the Turk and how he feels, but Biggs and Dario, we're excising you from the term libertarian. You just get the fuck out of here. Take that European definition of libertarian shit elsewhere.
Throwing it over to Merrick.
Oh, you're muted.
Good takes so far.
Oh, I'm doing a great job. Okay, great start.
Classic.
Classic. So I'm Merrick DeVille. I am a leftist sex worker and sex work advocate. I used to do like YouTube stuff. I stopped for a long time, and I'm getting back into streaming now. And I'm really happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Now I'm going to throw it over to Robe Man.
Attention, hippy dippy viewers. Introducing the most lovable man on Twitch. He's so hot, Dylan Burns doesn't even need his heater. His robe is so soft, babies stop crying at the first touch. His underwear hasn't had skid marks this whole week. The one, the only, he's never lonely. Robe Man.
Going on, baby? It's Road Man. It's your boy, Road Man. The man with the plan. I'm stacking this cash while you change bed pans. If this is your first time meeting Road Man, you're in for a treat. Because I bring love and hot fire, not just some old goofy tweets. What's up, baby? Sit back and relax and get awed by my takes. After hearing my knowledge, your mind will awake. Let's go, baby. I'm ready to go.
Happy to have you here, Robe Man. Robe Man is an alumni of the Hippy Dippy Recruitment Panel, our developmental brand that we run on Sundays. There'll be another one this Sunday, as always, as well as a community movie night. Truly.
Can I just ask, is it developmental because you have people with developmental disabilities on there or something like that? Like that sort of thing?
No talking during intro segments, Chud.
Sorry.
Rose Wrist.
Yeah, so in the words of Dylan Burns, I am the foreign menace gimmick who is on here as a last minute pick because Dylan couldn't get his thing together in time because, you know, his planning skills are a bit whatever, but you know, it's fine. Yeah, my name is Rose Wrist. I'm a social democrat and you can find me Rose Wrist on any platform basically. And I'm happy to be here.
He's like our Hornswoggle. Anyway, I'm going to throw it over to Turk.
Hey, I'm Turk. I stream science and tech here on Twitch and YouTube. Just so y'all are aware, the Steam Deck launches on the 25th, Valve's new handheld. This is the only PC in the world that actually matches its performance right now. So if you like that kind of stuff, go check me out over on YouTube. Gotta be putting this up against all the official numbers this week. And I'm a conservative, so I'm going to yell at a bunch of you guys.
I disagree with Turk on basically everything. But what I will say is this tech channel is top tier. You guys should check it out. Okay, let's go into the first topic. So, the first topic is deja vu. Hassan has decided to purchase a $200,000 car, and he made like a little promotional video with it with a lot of sound effects and music showing it off, and it sponsored the Ye Olde Discourse. This time in the form of car. Is it hypocritical for one of the country's most well-known socialists to be spending lots of money on expensive luxury cars? We're going to throw it first over to Turk.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of capitalism because, capitalism has raised so many people out of poverty around the world that it's actually a really good thing. Hassan spending the money he's earned through his entrepreneurial enterprises, he should be allowed to buy whatever he wants. But I do find it kind of funny that a person that's asking people to, upend the system for socialistic means isn't doing more to further those goals. He could probably have paid for one person's college tuition with that money. Instead of buying the car, he could have funded all sorts of different types of programs with that money alone. So, I wish he would do more for the world instead of himself, but as a capitalist, more power to him.
Somebody's fact checking me saying it wasn't $200,000. I will try to double check the exact amount, but from the reporting I saw 200,000. We're gonna throw it over to Rose.
Yeah, well, gonna be starting off strong here, agreeing with the conservative on this topic. But yeah, when it comes to the minor accusations of like hypocrisy here and there, that's not really the most important thing for me. The most important thing to me is that this is a person who's built their entire platform off of, expressing support or desire for a specific political end and saying that you stand for all these values and that you want to strive towards it and you want to move society in that direction. Yet, when given a wide range of really extensive tools to do so, as Hassan has been given when it comes to the monetary compensation he receives for his work, it is incredibly telling that he is not spending pretty much any significant portion of that into things that are actually contributing to the things he says that he stands for and that he believes in. And that's why things like this, like the car and the house, get so much attention. It is because he stands for all these things. It is because he does all this really, flaming rhetoric about, taxing the rich and, people that are really rich should do more with their money and stuff like that. And yet, when he's given the opportunity to spend a lot of his, money for the things that he, says that he really cares about, he doesn't fucking do it. And I think that's the most meaningful critique, and that's the one thing I want to focus on here.
Okay, so I'm being told that he leased the $200,000 car. Okay, he leased it. Now we're gonna throw it over to Robe Man.
Now, when I look at this thing with Hassan, it reminds me of in high school when you had the guy who was like friends with a girl and he wanted to bang the girl, but he didn't tell her he wanted to bang her. So he was just like, be friends with her, hang out a little bit, just see what he could do. This is what's happening with the socialism. He's projecting this socialist take of like, oh, I'm a socialist streamer. I'm doing everything I can. I got $200,000, but I'm not going to give anything to my my followers. Like, I'm not going to help out the cause. I'm just going to spend it on a Porsche. And that's the same thing. Do you want somebody who is going to tell you that they're fucking you, or they're sneaking behind you? You know what I mean?
Chud Logic.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been some points made already. I want to throw a new bone out there. And it's the idea that Hassan is engaging in what's called conspicuous consumption. And what this is basically when rich motherfuckers show off and flaunt their wealth. And they do it in order to demonstrate their status in society or something like that. So I think, to me, it's pretty egregious that someone who is a self-proclaimed socialist is engaging in this kind of ostentatious display of excessive and in some ways grotesque wealth. In terms of the hypocrisy, yeah, probably there's some hypocrisy point that you can make in there. I think it's quite telling that just a couple of weeks ago, Hassan was chewing out someone for criticizing his performance, telling a trans person, I hope you have a shit life, essentially. Only weeks later to go and buy an expensive Porsche. The guy is at this point a fraud, and if you're still defending him, you're a mug, you're a mark, you're an idiot. Give your head a wobble. That's it.
Dario.
Yes, I would say he's being hypocritical, but not in the sense that like socialism or social democracy is when no car, but rather I think Hassan's entire existence within the political sphere is hypocritical. And I expect everybody, even the conservatives in here, to live their values and put the resources they can into building political movements which encompass those values. But I expected the most from the people who have the most values and the most resources. A wise man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what I expect from Hassan, and he should do better.
Okay, Merrick.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of like, is it hypocritical? I think it kind of depends on like, what question are you asking? Are you asking, is it hypocritical because he's a socialist? To which the answer would be no, believing that the workers own the means of production does not mean that you can't have nice things. Now, is it hypocritical in the sense of like what Chud Logic said, he's engaging in like really kind of egregious, conspicuous consumption? Yeah, I do think that is particularly gross. When a lot of his views seem to center around we need to be taxing rich people more, that there is an extreme wealth inequality in this country. I think to then go online and post a video of him in a $200,000 car that I honestly don't really care whether he owns it or not, I think is, I'm going to be nice and say tacky. So I think it's a really, really bad look overall, especially if you claim to want to further a political agenda when you know that the vast majority of people in this country couldn't define socialism for you. And they think that a lot of socialists are champagne socialists. So then you go forth and you like actually play into that image. I think it's irresponsible all around. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it now over to Biggs.
I think the biggest fucking faux pas of this whole thing is how ugly this fucking car is. Okay, for 200 grand, fucking Hassan got ripped off. We should be fucking debating how shitty of a negotiator this guy is for buying such a shit car. But as far as like being a socialist and wanting to like espouse actual like social action, yeah, he's a fucking hypocrite. Whatever. But there's so many better cars you could have got for 200 grand. This car is a piece of shit from what it looks like. I was checking it out today, and there's so many better cars you can get. You can save way more money, get a much cheaper. Like the only saving grace is it's an electric car, so he's trying to be like environmental friendly. But like the Audi e-tron GT is a way better car. You have Teslas that are half the price that are probably way better cars. He could have taken that and spent the 100 grand that he would have saved and put it towards like a co-op or put it towards some other like actual socialist program and actually made a difference in the world. But instead, he wants to buy this fucking ugly ass fucking foot looking car.
All cars
Okay.
are disgusting. Go trains.
Foot looking.
Throwing it over to Fabian.
It looks like a fucking foot.
Okay.
It is really ugly. Yeah.
Fabian.
All right. So, when the question is Hassan a hypocrite because he's a socialist? The answer is yes. The car has nothing to do with it. The car is actually socialism working. That's what socialism is intended to do. It's intended to make a few people extremely wealthy, to run the state, and to give nothing but death and misery to everyone. So my argument is simply this, that socialism in both of its kind of agreed upon forms, which is, the means of production is owned by the workers and the state is going to kind of like handle owning the means of production for these workers, as well as this other form of socialism that is, this kind of amorphous blob of like demand side economics, large social safety nets, command control of the economy, state-run programs that take over portions of the economy, and massive regulation. Both of these things lead to death and misery, while they're asking you and telling you that they lead towards prosperity, and they virtue signal this. So all socialists are hypocrite and are hypocrites. Anyone that's ever called themselves a socialist is a hypocrite, because the ideology has hypocrisy baked into it. And so it doesn't actually matter whether or not he buys a nice car. In fact, he's just doing what good socialists do when he does that, which is be hypocrites.
Okay, it seems that most of you agree on the most of the Hassan Piker stuff. So I'll let you have an open discourse for a bit. But if you all are just agreeing, I'm gonna move on to the next topic, since we'll have a general consensus here. So who wants to start us off? Anybody? Okay, Dario.
I actually have a question for the Turk, I believe. You said that as a good capitalist, like you don't care how people spend their money, they should just spend their money, whatever, right? But I assume you do have some other like philosophical beliefs, except they're just like spending your capital is good, right? I assume you would like your fellow people in your community to also be able to live their lives to some extent, right? Or do you just not care about how anybody spends their money?
No,
And
I
if people
believe-
die, they die.
I believe there's a good social and moral fabric required for a functioning society, and as a prospering capitalist, yes, you're free to spend your money however, but as a moral and social good, donating to good causes that you think are necessary is pretty pivotal on supporting yourself, supporting your family, supporting your community, and those aren't ideals that are necessarily absent in capitalism. It's just not the forefront of the mechanism of, becoming an entrepreneur, raising money, raising funds, and getting profits from it. So
Yeah.
I definitely think there's a social good that can be done, and that capitalists should start focusing more on those things. Yeah.
I'm not saying necessarily that there's like an absence within capitalism, like depending on how we define capitalism, right? Some people define the social democratic states as capitalist, others would say they're socialist, right? I don't know where you stand on that. But what I'm asking you is, well, let's say that nobody like chooses to donate their money. I assume you would want some sort of funds be politically spread to these people, either through the state or some kind of apparatus, or What do you think?
If it's not going to be a political arm of a particular body, yeah, sure. I think as a government, we need to provide a base level of services to people, and that should be good for the benefit of the community. That doesn't mean we're going to alienate certain groups of people for different aspects of what they're doing. But yes, we should all be pitching in as a society towards making sure everyone's, taken care of.
I just
But,
think
but does that
Hassan,
come? But does that come at the force of government saying 1% you need to pay more or 10% you need to pay more, and not everyone? No, I think everyone should be equally responsible in funding these services.
The
Agree,
flashlights?
and whatever it takes to fund these services, I would be for that. I'd say.
I think Hassan tricked everybody. He had the grift. He was a socialist. He bought a Porsche, and now he's chilling. Like, why is everybody acting like, oh, Hassan is he's doing the right thing? Like, everybody acted like, if you're defending him, he grifted you. Can you not? I don't understand how you can defend.
So I have a basic question. I don't watch Hassan streams or whatever, but does he have a producer? Does he have editors on staff and stuff?
Oh, no.
How many people are in his Twitch side?
This is actually a conversation that's kind of come up recently, and I think Supreme tweeted out, Hassan's a capitalist. I'll debate it with you. Now, the first thing to know is Hassan doesn't have a particularly good record when it comes to labor, and he actually was kind of arguably exploiting an editor previously.
Yeah, and I think that's the hypocrisy we should be focusing on instead of, because if he was doing it all by himself, he owns the means of his production. Like Merrick said, he should be able to spend it however he wants. But if he has other people
that's not necessarily how that works. He doesn't own the means of production necessarily as a streamer.
For his stream?
He doesn't own Twitch, right?
Yeah, he doesn't own Twitch.
Twitch is the means of production.
His product he makes, his organization.
To be fair, though, at this point,
Twitch owns
Hassan
the
could
means
just
of
make his
production.
own. Hassan could make Hassan.gg and he would be chilling. He would be in the clear. So
if he was not on Twitch, yeah.
It's a tricky. So there's this concept of like platform capitalism, which refers to this exact thing, where you've got a platform that provides all of the infrastructure, and then you run your business on top of that. So it creates a dynamic which is a bit unusual. And whilst Hassan doesn't himself own Twitch, if he's got a business that he runs as a for-profit entity, depending on how the business is structured, I think you could argue that, I don't know, he's capitalistic or something like that. Even if he doesn't own Twitch, if he's got a business and he's got, say, 3 employees and he pays them a wage and takes the excess value of the profit, then yeah, that would be a capitalist, I think, under any reasonable definition, or some capitalistic or something like that.
Kind of like a newspaper delivery guy on his bicycle. Does he have to? Is the bicycle manufacturer a part of the means of production? I don't think it is in that instance.
I would think that the newspaper, the newspaper itself, and the people that print the newspapers, that would be the means of production in that situation. I mean, that's what
the people that
print it. Does the bike?
You could probably look to a couple of different
the product is the news that they're delivering, but the means of transporting it, Twitch, is that's the bike.
Transport and production are different, right? Unless he's just going around and verbally telling people the news, that product,
that's just how technology works now.
Well, right. So when Marx was writing about this, we didn't have technology set up this way. So you there's kind of a gray area here with some of this stuff.
Well, but is it really so does everybody here think that socialism is when you share 100% of the means of production, and that's just like a binary? It's either 100% or it's not socialist, right?
That's the goal, right?
Well, but we can say that it exists on a scale, right? Like there's a spectrum of socialism, and we can say exactly everything's on a spectrum, Chud. And the question is, so if Hassan,
it's not perfect socialism.
If Hassan is moving his business practices towards a more socialist kind of distribution of his business, well, couldn't we then say that he is attempting to go towards socialism?
Well,
you can look at what Demon Mama does. She's a streamer who has sort of like a profit sharing with the people who work for her. So you could look at something like that, and that would be a closer direction towards being able to stream, have say an editor, have say a researcher, and people who work with you, and that be a closer direction than I think what Hassan currently has.
Sure, can I just answer what she said specifically?
Okay, sure.
These types of, I'm not sure how Demon Mama has set up her stream, right? But these kinds of structures exist everywhere under capitalism, right? Where some of the workers get either shares in the business or get like some sort of ownership in the business for working there for some amount of time, right? Like I believe Google even does this, right? And I don't think we would say Google is like a socialist business or moving towards socialism, right? So what I'm actually asking is, well, where's the line between socialist and not socialist, right? Because if there is these structures within capitalism, like within a capitalist society that people are already doing, are they socialist or are they capitalist?
I'd be interested to see what Rose has to say about that, actually.
With that question specifically, I don't know how much there is disagreement on this. I think we could all, I don't know, maybe somebody disagrees, but I think we all pretty much agree that Hassan falls pretty far away from the socialist end of that spectrum. I think we're all on the same page with that, with how he runs his business currently.
Well,
Yeah.
now if we're grading Hassan on a spectrum of socialist, like, is he a centrist socialist here? Is he more of a right-wing socialist, or is he like more socialist?
No, socialist.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean,
we all
what do you
generally seem
mean
to
by
agree.
that?
Well,
We
you're
all generally
saying-
seem to agree that he's pretty far away from like the heavy
Yeah.
socialist.
Well,
end of the
okay,
spectrum.
here's a
That's
problem I've got
perspective.
though. We're making an assumption. I don't know the structure of his business. Does anyone
Actually,
know
I
the
don't
structure
know,
of
yeah.
business?
that was
I
my
don't know,
original
actually.
question.
I think we
Yeah,
can only go off
we-
of what people have said in the past, and the only concrete claims that we know about how he runs his business is that people in the past have claimed that he has underpaid them. But the thing is, we're not involved in those relationships, so this is technically all hearsay, and we really don't know anything about it.
All I'm saying,
Based on what
saying,
we've heard and what we've seen, though, it doesn't seem like he's anywhere near that. Based on all the
Listen,
history and all the
That's
public
the
information.
most
available to us.
probable, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I'm not a defender of Hassan, but I
Yeah.
will say on the latest show that he did, or on like his podcasting, he did it with like H3. He did say that he has taken steps lately to move his business more towards a socialist model. Now, I'm not a defender of Hassan.
Did
I
he
don't
give
know what he's
examples,
doing.
or did he just say that?
No, he just said that. That's what
Okay.
he said. So-
But that still
I'm
is
just
the spectrum
saying.
question. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
if what Merrick is saying, where there's a pay structure in this grade of socialism, that could be capitalist. You know, we could talk about that. But what I'm saying is, if it was a truly socialistic enterprise, wouldn't the workers be able to tell Hassan, hey, we want more money because you're being more profitable and we're doing more work? Shouldn't that be, is that a more further
that
left?
would be a more socialist sentiment, right? More general communication,
Further
more horizontal
left.
integration, more of that type of thing. Yeah, definitely. And from what we've seen, it's pretty far away from that. I wonder if we can ask another question where maybe we'll have a bit more disagreement, because it seems like right now we all generally agree and we're just kind of working about, okay, where's the spectrum of socialism and stuff. Does anyone here believe that Hassan is a good advocate for his values or for his political ambitions?
No.
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 Nobody thinks that. Okay, I don't know what we can disagree on this
think
topic.
he- I think honestly-
I think this topic's dead at this point.
The only
Yeah.
thing-
Hassan,
That's negative, actually.
Hassan is driving a Porsche while his followers are driving a bike. That's
The
what
only
Well,
thing that,
okay.
the
and
only
he's
thing
also-
that I,
Good
the only
contribution.
thing-
Wait,
the
okay,
only
okay,
thing
stop.
that
Okay.
Okay.
So it seems like
I'll
all-
play devil's
you
advocate
get-
on that one.
Well, no, we're not going to play devil's advocate. I don't need somebody just playing devil's advocate on. But if everybody agrees, there's no reason to keep talking about it. We can just move on. Right?
Can we talk about Hassan's
agree.
abuse of a trans chatter that no one's talked about ever
No.
this
I
evening?
made a
if we're,
video
if
on
we're
it.
going
No,
to talk about
wait,
Hassan,
no.
that would seem to be the thing.
Yeah.
The abuse of a trans chatter.
Yeah,
Could somebody
call
somebody
them out
explain
in
a
chat.
Or-
I could
Okay.
give a. I could
Okay.
give a
I'm
do you want to do it,
I'm not
Derek? Or
debating
can
it.
you-
Wait,
I'm not
okay,
debating
okay.
a topic that I didn't
Number one,
research.
let's not call it abuse, okay? I saw what you're talking about. It's not abuse.
Verbal
of a trans
beration.
chat.
It's pretty bad. It's probably not abuse, but it's pretty
Yeah, it's not
It's on
abuse.
a
When I think
spectrum.
abuse, I imagine you walk
It's
up
a
to someone and
spectrum,
get the
alright?
fuck out of here. That didn't
Well,
happen.
there's different-
okay?
there's
Was it
different
somebody
kinds of
was he
spectrum,
smacking
guys.
down a
Abuse?
heckler?
Of
Was
course.
he smacking down a
Um,
heckler?
Okay,
No,
this
they weren't
is
even
completely
heckling,
derailed.
actually.
We're moving on to the next topic before we get into chaos and we start talking about things that we don't need to talk about. It's not
Get
our
outros?
topic. Yeah, we'll do
No,
outros.
please.
I mean,
Wait, why on this topic?
well, the topic. Well, actually, we don't need outros. To be
Dylan's
clear.
just
need
scared of
outros.
Hassan. It's okay.
We don't- no, we're
Dylan's
not gonna-
scared.
Yeah.
I
We're just
wanna
not.
defend
Look,
my man.
we're not gonna talk about an issue if there's no reason to continue this.
Dylan wants that Hassan clout. It's fine.
It has to be on his thumbnail. That's
Okay.
what this is for.
Let's
We need
go
to spend
on.
at least 5 more
Clickbait.
minutes before he can, in a good faith, put it
Okay.
up on the
I mean, to summarize everyone's position, we all know he's a grifter. Settled.
I don't
Yeah,
think that's what everybody
exactly,
said.
exactly.
Anyway, let's
Does
move on.
anyone here disagree?
Hassan spent more money on the car than 6 people on average in the US make in a year. Let that
But
sink
it was a
in.
lease.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Okay.
It was a lease.
6 people full time at least.
Okay.
While pushing
Wonderful.
socialism.
Okay, got it.
Um,
Okay. Next topic. Okay. God.
You need to get some Hassan
I love
Sims
you,
in here for
Dylan.
next
I'm
time.
sorry.
Dylan.
It's
Wait, that
okay.
was not
I
allowed.
didn't. I didn't mean for it to go off the rails.
What's
like
the
that. I'm
what's the
sorry.
next thing Hassan's gonna buy? That's the next topic.
A
A
yacht.
yacht. Yeah,
So
yacht.
yeah, it's got to be a boat, right? He's got a house, a car.
has
The
to
next,
be a
it's got to
boat.
be a
You
boat,
got
right?
you got to get an
Yeah.
eye massager.
Wait.
Maybe he goes
he's
straight to the
wait,
helicopter.
Stop.
Who knows?
Stop.
He's gonna
Everybody.
skip the
Everybody,
boat.
stop. We're moving on to the next
Airplane.
topic.
Someone in
Okay.
chat said
Whole
I'm gonna-
theater.
Next topic. Okay. The next topic, since that was probably the fastest topic in history. Okay. We're probably gonna have a record.
I think everybody just hates Hassan
Okay.
at this point. To
I'll
be
just
honest,
meet Merrick. Okay. So we're gonna go to the next topic. The next topic has to do with the Olympics in China, and if the United States should be boycotting the Olympics in China for any reason you would want to give. We're gonna start in the top left-hand corner with Biggs.
So, I believe that at least from a diplomatic standpoint, the U.S., UK, Australia, was it Lithuania? I think, or maybe Latvia, one of those L countries. They decided not to send any diplomats to China. That was their like protest. But as far as like the athletes go, I actually work with somebody who's a Paralympic athlete who was in the Olympics for the Summer Olympics in Korea, I believe. So I was talking to her about this, and she was kind of the impression like she's fine with like having the games in whatever country is able to host them, but her issue is with the how the athletes themselves are treated. I think that from not only from a competitive standpoint, but from like an actual humanitarian standpoint, the athletes themselves have been treated like absolute shit for this Olympics. I think it's a complete embarrassment by the Olympic Committee that they allowed this to happen. I think that just this whole thing, like, I mean, Chud's got this the picture in the background. I'm sure he'll talk about that, but like, it looks like we're literally having Olympics in almost like what's that game? Fallout Wasteland at this point. It just seems like just such an embarrassment to China. I don't even know why they would want to have it there because they're obviously going to be solely embarrassed. Not to mention all the controversies where they're coming up with like disqualifying people for like very minute things that have never happened before in the past. All these athletes that have actually defected from their home countries to be on China's teams because they thought it was better to do. I don't know if China was like paying them a bunch of money. I don't know what the actual logistics are, but that just seems very embarrassing to me that China can't even get athletes to compete for their own country. They have to steal athletes from other countries. So to me, I just think this whole thing is kind of actually good because it's just showing what a fucking paper tiger and like shit show that China is currently. As far as like actually boycotting the Olympics, I think that's on the athletes. Like I would hate for, especially like working with Olympian, like she even told me, she said, if the government said that I couldn't go, I would be devastated. And to me, I don't think you can hold the athletes responsible for that. If they want to go compete, they should be able to go compete. If governments want to boycott, I guess they can diplomatically or politically. But I think what we have now is China's just showing how shitty they really are, and I think that's actually good for the world to see.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to Chud Logic.
Okay. The question is why? Why? What's the reason for boycotting? I mean, there's like maybe something of a precedent. If you leave CIA propaganda, of course, that obviously China is just like Nazi Germany, and they're committing a Holocaust or something. I don't know. But even like the Nazi Olympics, were attended by nations despite them saying that they might well not go. So I think the problem you've got, in all honesty, in all seriousness, is that what is the line? How do you determine what the line is of when you do and don't go? And are those rules flexible dependent on whether or not the nation is an ally or not? Because obviously it's not just China that's engaging in egregious human rights abuses or whatever, right? There's other countries that are as well. So how do you determine what the line is? And do you have a consistent approach to that dependent on what nation it is you're talking about? Would it be different if it was, say, Saudi Arabia or something like that? That's the point.
Dario?
Yeah. So the state of China is currently committing a genocide against the Muslim Uyghur population in Xinjiang. I believe that's pretty much like settled. If you read the papers, if you read the coverage, there's tons of testimony. It is what it is. And I think this should be met with the utmost of condemnation and action that we can do politically and practically. The fact that the IOC has chosen to cooperate with China this time around is an international disgrace. And not only the athletes, the media, and everyone attending expected to keep silent about these atrocities. They're also banned from using the podium or the field to even peacefully protest. Like, that is the situation at hand. And I believe we should do more. The US isn't sending, apparently, official delegation to the games, diplomats and stuff, but it's still sending the athletes. We're not boycotting the sponsors, Visa, Coca-Cola, Airbnb. We're not boycotting the broadcast, which accounts for like 70% of its revenue. Like, we need to hit them somewhere, and if not like directly, then through the wallets.
Next is going to be Fabian.
Yeah, so I think whether or not we should boycott the Olympics is obviously an individual choice. I think, but it's kind of two. There's kind of two major arguments here, right? The first is that the Olympics has been known. The Olympics Committee is one of the most corrupt organizations ever. I mean, like looking at the Red Nazov and like the doping scandals, the way they fucked over people, the amount of money that goes missing from governments and ends up in Mitt Romney's hands, or anything like that, right? It's a horribly corrupt organization that is, and the entire process is based off of this like self-masturbatory state worship of like nation states and national pride, which honestly, as we become more globalized and hopefully more libertarian and more anarchistic, that we can get rid of this old vestige of stupidity. The second being that China is a horrible country. I mean, just through and through, the CCP is horrendous. Anybody that says it's CIA propaganda, I wouldn't go so far as to call it a genocide, because I haven't personally seen information that proves it to be a genocide, but it's certainly ethnic cleansing when you are, when you can see drone footage of them moving people onto trains to go to gulags that you cannot escape unless you give up your religion and you give up your language and you give up your culture. And even then you might never escape the prisons. And we can get into all of the abuses of China. I'm sure a lot of people will talk about all of the horrible things that the CCP does, Hong Kong and all that stuff. But I think those are the two main arguments as to why you should just stop watching. And you should just laugh at anybody when they talk about the Olympic Games and be like, you still watch that shit? What a fucking loser. Don't you know what's going on over there?
Merrick? You're muted?
Muted.
Good point.
I think
again,
you
Mark.
muted her, Dylan.
Yeah, I muted her because her dog was barking.
Well, she's server muted.
Thank you. I guess I just don't really see the point of a boycott if the only thing that's happening is we're not sending over diplomats. Like I think someone else, I don't know if it was Daria, that said that like we're not boycotting any of the sponsors. We're still sending athletes over. It just, I don't know. It's hard. I guess on one hand, it's hard for me to care about this because I don't really care about sports and I don't really care about the Olympics. But on the other hand, it's also, I think, really hard to say that the United States is. It's hard to say that the United States is doing this because they actually care about the internment of the Uyghur people. So the whole thing just seems very strange and kind of like a virtue signal to me. Personally, I think that what's happening to the Uyghur people is disgusting and abhorrent, and I've taken a fuck ton of abuse online for saying that. So, like, don't get me wrong, like, I think it's disgusting, but I guess I just don't really see the point of being like, oh, we're just not going to send our diplomats. It just feels kind of hollow, the whole thing.
Rose?
Yeah. So generally, I mean, there is a long history of political action and engagement in the Olympics as a whole. Whether we talk about the protests for racial equity in the Olympics 1968, Black September, and how that kind of arose from Israel-Palestine conflict 1972. In 1976, when 26 countries abstained because New Zealand, which was a national team that played during apartheid in South Africa, was allowed to participate. Another example, in the 80s, when the US and its allies boycotted the Olympics because of the USSR invasion of Afghanistan and because they were still allowed to participate, political action and demonstrating kind of like political wills and stuff like that in the Olympics is nothing new. So it's not like I don't know if anyone was going to make a get politics out of sports thing, but I mean, there's a long history of this, and it's a kind of big thing that has to do with a lot of international governments and stuff. You're going to see expressions of politics within it. I think it's good that the United States of America is taking some form of stand against China when it comes to this. Whether or not it's sufficient, they could probably have done more. Although I do also understand it from the athlete's perspective, people who may not be very interested in politics as a whole and have dedicated their entire life towards working themselves up towards the goal of being at a good state of like physical competency where they're able to perform well in the Olympics and do the thing that is their passion in life and all of that, right? So I feel like cutting off the opportunity for the athletes to participate, feel a bit iffy on that as a potential solution. But for pretty much everything else, apart from the athletes specifically, which I admit is the main thing, but for everything else, I agree that the US probably could do more in those departments. But at the end of the day, hey, these Olympics, they have already started. The US has already done partially some form of a diplomatic boycott. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Okay. Turk?
Yeah, so I feel a lot of the same thinking and thought process as Dario here. I wouldn't go maybe as extreme to some degree, but I do wish that our country would support our athletes more, both for their physical health and well-being, and also allowing them to express themselves in the positions that they hold. Because when they're on American soil, they have no problem, talking about whatever causes they want to talk about, especially the last couple of years. So I don't see why we're trying to put a muzzle on them when if they have something to say towards, a certain ideology or whatever, they shouldn't be held back from saying that. Granted, I don't know how the diplomatic relations works on that front. Does their visa give them certain, leeway? I don't know. I just wish our country would back up our citizens and our ability to exercise our free speech, but they're on Chinese soil, so.
Thrown over to Roadman.
The way I see it is like the Olympics back in the day, they stopped wars to have Olympics. You know what I mean? Everybody would drop their swords, they would drop their guns, and they would just have the games. The games themselves, I think we should do them. Why are we even thinking about not going to the Olympics? I think we should be in the Olympics. I don't understand why anybody wants to boycott this. It's stupid. Like, you want to represent your country, America. We are Americans, right? All of us are Americans.
No.
We are left, we're right. I mean, maybe not in this panel, but in America, we're left, we're right. We're all coming together. The Olympics is where we come together as one, as Americans, and we can say, "Oh, look at our guy. He did it. He won the game." You know what I mean? And that brings people together, and that makes your country stronger. That makes your country like happier. You know what I mean? Like it boosts morale. So once you start putting politics into the Olympics, I think it just like muddies the waters, and it's disgusting to me. I think that the Olympics need to be. We should be cheering on our athletes, man. They're trying hard. They're grinding every day. They're doing things that we can't do. Me and you, I can't jump over a fucking bar that this high. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've been training all their lives, and you guys are worried about some political shit that's going down. Come on, man. Let's go.
Okay. I think that's everyone. So anybody want to start it? Okay. Dario's trying to do it again, but I'm going to give it to Rose since Dario started on the last topic. And I saw there's a lot of people in chat who were angry that I didn't let it go, the discourse. I didn't let the Hassan thing move on. I'll think about it, but I don't see a value in pivoting the entire discourse to the trans chat. Does anybody here actually want to talk about that?
Yes.
Yes.
About
I
Hassan
don't know
stuff
much
still?
about it, to be honest.
I can
the
fill you
trans
all
stuff
in.
on Hassan. Okay.
Okay, raise
I
your
want
hand if you
Hassan-
actually want to talk about it.
I want Hassan to be facilitating some of the
So one
the
person.
broadcasts.
Wait, hold on. Who knows about the Hassan trans issue thing? Who knows about it first?
I don't know about it. That's what I
don't
want to
know.
know about.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen
But
the
I'll
video.
put- I'll
That's
put
the
no
thing.
idea
That's
if
the
you
thing.
want.
I just don't feel
Some
like it
people
would
don't
be
know.
fair to the people who didn't prepare for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let Rose start us off.
Yeah, so I completely disagree with the analysis provided by Roadman that the Olympics has always been some fun, like big apolitical thing that has done a lot of things and made a lot of connections, and people look aside from international geopolitical things. I listed off a wide range of examples where politics have played a pretty direct role in the way that we engage in the Olympics, like internationally as a whole. And I think that those are, in a lot of cases, like important steps to take and important marks to make and important statements to make on the Olympic platform, where you have a lot of people watching and you have a lot of people paying attention. Maybe I'm not informed enough on this, but can you give an example of a war that was ended because of the Olympics?
Okay, back in the day, back in Roman times, The Olympics go very
Good
far
trap
back.
card,
Okay,
by the way.
so when we need to realize that we are all one world, right? Okay, we're all people. Everybody's together. The Olympics is the one chance that we can come together and say, "Look at us. We're all people. We're coming together. We're going to do one thing. We're going to try to, do a feat, whatever it is. I'm going to weight lift. I'm going to ice skate. Who is the best in the world at this thing?" And that is something that is special, I think, for the Olympics. And once you start putting politics into it, now you're muddying the waters, like I said, and it's like you're just getting you're doing the left and right for the Olympics now. You're doing the Joe Biden, Donald Trump for the Olympics. It's
To-
like
Wait, hold on. I
wait,
need
so
to
wait,
get on that. I need to get on that,
take
please.
the
Please,
opportunity-
Dario, let me follow up, please.
I can answer the
So, hold
question
on.
for
So
Roadman.
we did
Wait.
not just start putting politics into Olympics. I gave you a wide range of examples from like old as like 30 years ago where politics has played a pretty big part. There's probably more examples as well when I go back. And also I want to note again, you didn't answer my question. So can you please provide me
I-
with a war that was ended because of the Olympics?
I'm not
I
saying
don't-
a
I don't
war
think
is
that's what he
ended
was
because
going
of-
for.
I'm going for the future. Listen, I'm not talking about the past. All
Future
you
wars
guys-
that are ended by the
every,
Olympics.
every time I'm on these debate panels, everyone wants to talk about the past. Let's go for the future. The future is now. We're on Discord. We can have we can communicate with
You
somebody
brought up the
over.
past, you idiot.
We can
You brought the fucking
communicate.
past, you moron.
We can communicate with people in India right now, just right now, Discord, face to face. So let's find out who can throw a javelin the farthest, right? That's fun. That's a fun thing. Let's have the positive aspect of it. You guys want to sit here and go political with it like,
It's
oh,
together strong.
no,
To-
you,
To
You're just
better
like-
answer,
Well, man,
About
the
the fucking
issue,
Greek
what-
Roman
Hey, hey,
time.
hey.
the
What
issue,
the
the
fuck?
issue
Stop,
is
stop.
the issue.
Okay, one at a time. We're gonna start with Turk, and then Biggs has been waiting.
So the better answer is I don't think Roadman was actually trying to say that we've ended wars for that. I think he was more towards the body of people of a nation that are morale boosted due to
Exactly.
feats that happen, such as the United States beating Canada in hockey in like the 80s or whatever, where that like inspired a
Russians.
few, or the Russians, whatever, or like whatever match you can put. There's probably a bunch of stories when we used to care about the sports and how our country actually behaved and prevailed. That's been more morale boosting, and I think that's what he was trying to answer towards, not
For
necessarily
conservatives,
us
you do a
ending
lot
in a
of
war.
bailing people out of tough situations, but that's okay.
it's not a tough situation. I just like, why are you trying to like bring it down? Why are you trying to make a argument about the Olympics? I don't understand.
Well, the issue
One
is,
point-
Hold on, okay,
Roman,
hold on. Wait,
what
what
you're advocating.
argument do you
Raise
think I'm
your
making,
speed.
Roadman?
We gotta
What
go.
argument do you
Okay,
think I'm
wait.
making, Roadman?
You're just
okay,
killing the vibe.
Stop. Okay, stop. Everybody, stop. Okay, you all probably know one person. Okay, so we got to do one at a time. Show you all get the time to talk. I do want somebody to respond, but I also Biggs has been waiting to talk, so I'm gonna throw it to Biggs to get the list clean, and then you can all start doing one after the other. Biggs.
Yeah, so I do agree with Roban when it comes to uniting a country. Like what the Turk brought up was the Miracle on Ice, or the United States with a bunch of like college kids beat these professional Russian hockey players in the semifinal game to go on to win the gold against, I believe, the Finns in the 80s. So there are things that can be done that can kind of like give countries this like sense of unity, right? But there's also a lot of, from the other side, there's also a lot of political turmoil that happens. We saw in the 1972 Olympics with the Palestinians in the Munich games that actually overtook the Israeli, some of the Israeli athletes and things there. So there's a lot of the Olympics has always been political, and I think that goes without saying. But I think that the bigger issue here is like, to me, I think the Olympics are dying. Like we've seen such a reduced amount of like basically like nobody cares about it anymore, especially like when it's over across like huge time zone differences. That's another big issue. But as far as like the boycotting stuff, I think that it was the right thing to do, especially with how China's been kind of like influencing other parts of the world, with their Belt and Road Initiative, the possible Uyghur genocide and things like that. So I think it is important to remember that the Olympics has always been political. We can never take that out. Whenever you have nations competing, there's always going to be a political aspect to it. And the problem that the best thing we can hope for is that these things can be overcome through camaraderie. That's what the whole original basis of the Olympics was, to have these countries come together to compete, to put war aside, to put these things aside, And what we see now is a more of a fanning of the flames. So I'll leave it at that.
So I've got another question, or maybe a different perspective. Let's say we did boycott the Olympics and the U.S. didn't go. Who would think that the world would actually be like, yes, we can finally not get beat at every single sport that's out there, except for China, of course. I mean, would that not be good for the world to actually try and challenge each other?
Well, the U.S. is part of the world, so I mean, if the
Well,
U.S.
well,
is
no,
the
we
best,
win
it's-
everything though. So it's
No,
like
we
maybe
don't.
let's give other people a
Well,
chance.
No, we don't. Not the winner.
Listen,
Have you
Not
seen the
winner.
Winter
listen,
Olympics? It's all the
we need-
Nordics. It's all us Northern Europeans.
We need
that
to
are
address
crushing all
this
the skiing
fucking
events.
this fucking absolutely deranged. Oh yeah, it's all about peace and love, man, and all this shit, right? As Rose pointed out, like there's been a number of times, like okay, what was it, the 1936 Olympics, where it's literally the Nazi Olympics, right? The Nazis were trying to spread their fucking race science, and like loads of nations were thinking about boycotting it. Like, yeah, what is this idea of like, oh, it's all about coming together? There's a history of political turmoil
Yeah, but that
throughout
was
the
in the
Olympics.
past.
But this
That's
this
past.
is
What's
wait,
the
but this
past?
is the wait.
You
can I-
specifically
wait.
said, Roadman. You
They
specifically
didn't
said
have Discord in the
wars
past.
have been
Roadman,
paused
So true,
because of the
bestie.
Olympics. What's an
You would
example of a war that has been paused because of the Olympics?
Listen,
He
they
doesn't have
didn't
one.
have Discord in the
You're
past.
not going to answer my question, so
He
I'm going to
doesn't
ask
have
it
one.
again, and then I'm
Rose,
going to give
Rose,
up.
he doesn't. Rose, he doesn't have one. He
Alright.
he doesn't have
Oh,
one.
fuck.
Obviously.
You don't.
He
You
doesn't
don't
have an
understand what I'm
example.
saying.
The
You
issue-
don't
but
understand
they-
what I'm saying.
Okay, one at a
Well,
time.
I do.
Wait.
do-
Okay, Robe, clarify.
What I'm saying is, you guys want to go, oh, what happened in 1929 with fucking Abe? Nobody gives a fuck about Abe Lincoln. Nobody gives a fuck about all these in the past shit. Okay, we're talking about today. Discord. We can talk to people face to face. We can have a conversation with somebody far away across an ocean. I don't give a fuck about 100 years ago. Everybody on these fucking debate panels wants to talk about 100 years ago, Hitler did this and this and this and this.
But it
Nobody gives a
demonstrates
fuck,
how
dude.
fucking stupid you are.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm trying to
issue
talk
is-
it
about.
demonstrates shit.
Let
It
him
demonstrates shit. But Hitler didn't have Discord. You see what I'm saying?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Roman, the issue. Roman, the-
Wait. Chud
It's a
Logic.
simulation, it's
Chud
breaking.
Logic earlier wanted to talk about this stuff directly. I want to give him some time to confront him because all of you are just
Yeah,
going to
it's
want to go
just-
back and forth with Roban.
Listen.
So I'm just going to be fair. Go about it.
Listen,
Just start.
Roadman, look, the reason we're putting this out is because you're saying really stupid shit.
No, I'm not
You know,
saying stupid
talking
shit.
Well, you are saying, I mean, you're talking about fucking
True.
Discord. I don't know what Discord has got to do with the Olympics. What, we're going to do fucking curling over Discord now? What the fuck are you on about?
Chud, Hitler didn't have Discord. What don't you understand? Come
is
on,
what you're-
wrap your head
this
It's
is
around
what
it.
you
very
guys are doing.
simple.
No, this is what you guys are
Hitler
doing.
didn't
You
have
guys are
Discord.
you guys are so like focused on this one point of this like political the world is changing right now. We're in 2022. Like the internet is connecting everybody. You can feel the connection. I can come on here and talk to so many people. Like Genghis Khan could not do this back in the day. He wanted to conquer. You see what I'm saying? Like the world has changed, and you guys want to talk about 100 years ago with fucking all this bullshit. That is not real shit. Today is
Okay.
the real shit.
Let me
Roman,
ask you
let's
one
talk about-
real
let's
quick
talk
question.
about-
Wait,
What is an
wait,
example?
wait,
One
wait,
question,
wait,
one
wait,
question.
wait,
And then
stop.
I'll
Had a
see.
Discord
Stop.
grooming scandal.
Okay.
Okay, look, there's one
Everybody
question, okay?
except this is how this topic is gonna go. Everybody except for Roadman and whoever is fighting Roadman is gonna be muted.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So Chud, go
you-
on.
you made
Then
an
I'll-
interesting
I'll
point,
choose
Roadman,
who
that I
goes
wanna
after
dig
next.
into.
Okay, go.
So you said about the progress of technology, okay?
Yep.
So what I want to ask you is this. Do you think that technology had progressed between the time of Genghis Khan and the time of World War II?
Bro. This
Listen, it's a simple question, bro. Yes or no?
sure, you want to do this yes or no shit? Look, can you just focus on me? Focus. See my glasses?
Okay,
You see
I'm
my
focused,
face?
bro.
You see my face?
I can see you,
my
bro.
face? You see my face?
Let's go.
We're in 2022. I'm
Okay.
talking to you on a computer. When's the last
Correct.
time this happened? When's the last time this happened?
Earlier, I guess. I was speaking to people on
Never. So
Right.
so leaders of countries can have conversations without sending a fucking horse across the fucking land
Right.
on
But
a
this
boat.
this gets okay, but this gets into what I'm saying, because you're saying that Genghis Khan rightly didn't have Discord. But what I'm saying to you is in the lead up to World War II, there was an an increase in technology, which meant nations could communicate better than they could before, and that still didn't stop war. Nowadays, as you say, we've got Discord, wars still occur. Like there's currently a big
Okay.
thing going on over Russia and Ukraine, right? So
Now-
why is
now look
Discord
at-
not
look at-
sorting
look
that
at-
out?
Look at Canada. Look at the way Canada is going. The
Right.
government themselves have their own story. but you can go on Facebook, you can go on TikTok, Instagram, and you can see the common person can post their thoughts and beliefs, and you can see what the real feeling is in that situation. So back in the day, when the media was controlled by the higher ups, they can just push out their propaganda, do whatever they want to want to do. And now you can come on Discord and look at Roadman, some fucking dude who knows who he is. I can have my say. I can just say whatever the fuck I want, and people can listen to what I say. We couldn't do this back when Genghis Khan was going around. We couldn't do this when Hitler was around. You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
Who are
Chud,
these
final
higher-ups?
point, and then we're moving on to.
I just want to ask, who are these higher ups that are, talking about in the media? Who are you talking about?
What do you mean who are the higher ups? People control the media. Do you not agree that 20 years
Who
ago?
controls the media?
Are you trying to back me into a corner to make me sound like a racist or something, bro? That's not what's happening. All
Yo,
I'm saying
chill
is
out, bro. I'm just asking a question, dude. Chill
the
out.
media,
I'm a bit sensitive about that one.
the media is being decentralized right now. That's happening on Twitch. You're seeing it right now. All these people-
Decentralized? We're
Yes,
okay. I
it's
didn't
What
know
are we
this.
gonna get?
decentralized.
What are we gonna get?
because
We have
Can I finish? Can I
an
finish?
unprecedented
Can I
amount of
finish?
monopolies going on right now.
I'll let you
but
finish,
that's
and
I
then
finish?
I'm letting you finish, and then we're moving on to Dario, then Rose,
I
in that
finish?
order. Okay.
I wake up
Fabian.
on a Friday night. I'm excited to watch the Hippy Dippy show.
Hell
Not
yeah.
CNN, not fucking some other bullshit. I want to watch real people talk real shit, not some news that is propaganda for me. Like, here you go, serve it on a platter. I want what's happening real right now. And this is what's happening. Look at this. We're talking, we're having a good conversation, and that shit's real. And people are fucking watching it. They're commenting. We're having a good talk.
Are we having
This is
a
the
good
future.
conversation?
Out of curiosity, I need to know, what are your
Roman,
favorite news sources, Roadman?
Rose,
What are
Rose,
your
it was,
what are
it
your
was me
go-to?
first.
Yeah, it was
first,
Dario was
Rose.
next. Yeah,
Sorry.
then it's
Well,
yours.
then that's you, buddy.
What's
oh
that?
shit, I think I was on mute.
Okay, listen, Roman. Let's talk about today, okay? Because you want to talk about today, you don't want to talk about the past. You keep saying, "Let's celebrate the best of humanity," but the issue is that you're saying, "Let's celebrate the best of humanity," while we turn a blind eye to the worst of humanity, right? And the worst of humanity is happening right now, today. 1,000 miles away from where the Olympics is being held, right? People are being rounded up in internment camps. They're being collected based off of their culture, their ethnicity, like sometimes their skin color, imprisoned only because of that, and being forced to go through these atrocities. That is happening today, right? And what I'm saying is, if that's happening 1,000 miles away from the biggest showing of human greatness, then why can't we acknowledge the worst parts of humanity that exist right then and there, right? Why do we have to turn a blind eye? Why can't we say, hey, listen, we cannot celebrate the greatness while not acknowledging these complete
Okay.
unacceptable things happening?
So today's day and age, we are all very comfortable creatures, right? We live in a day where we watch Netflix and we sit on our couch and we eat ramen noodles and everything's great. That's great. 100 years ago, you would fucking die if you went into a river and you got a cut on your leg. You see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
so this idea that like, oh, these people are being tortured and all that stuff, yeah, that's bad. I understand. That's a bad thing. That shouldn't happen. I'm not saying it should happen, but you're going to boycott the Olympics because of that? Like,
Rob, can I ask you a question quick?
well, I'm not-
Wait. Rob, you said 100 years ago. Isn't that talking about the past?
it is talking about the past, but that's what I'm.
Well,
Okay.
Roman, so I understand the point that you're making, right? I understand completely where you're trying to go. The issue for me is that I personally have a hard time celebrating the greatness while we turn a blind eye to these things, right? And it isn't just like people being tortured, like people are being rounded up and genocided, right? Like when this happened, like 100 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, the entirety of the globe stood together and said never again. But
So
it
you
is
think
happening.
you think boycotting the Olympics is going to fix it?
No, I'm not, right? I'm not delusional. But what I'm saying is we need to take a stand against these things, right? And like we cannot in good consciousness celebrate the greatness of humanity. That I agree we should celebrate. I like the Olympics. Listen, I'm not a fucking loser who doesn't care about like any kind of sport or whatever. I do like watching these things. But it bugs me when athletes cannot even peacefully protest on the field during these events because they will be barred from competing.
Based.
Okay, we're gonna move it over to Rose.
Okay, I just have
Then
I just have
Fabian,
a
then
question. for Roadman. I'm gonna test some waters here. If in 1944s they were gonna set up like a Summer Olympics kind of like stadium, like 15 kilometers away from Auschwitz in Nazi Germany, would you have been okay with running the Olympics there?
See what happens? You want to go to the past.
You didn't answer my question.
You
I
wanna
need
go to the
answer my
past.
question. I need you to answer my question. Would you have wanted the Olympics to be ran there?
I would not want the Olympics to be ran there.
Would
that what you want?
if that was what Germany decided, that's here's where we're gonna have our Olympics. Would you be in favor of like the United States sending their teams over there to compete?
No, I wouldn't.
Why are you letting politics get in the way of the sports?
It's not about. See, this is what I'm saying though. Is you want to go back to the fucking past, dude? I don't give a fuck about the past.
Why don't we talk about the internment happening today then?
Yeah.
Do you think the Olympics should be held in North Korea, Roadman? What do you think? Next year in North Korea?
Will it help the world peace? Will it help world peace? Will we have a good conversation?
Well, it isn't helping world peace to have it in China, right? You realize we can have it in any country in the world. We don't have to have it in China. We can have it in Switzerland, where the fucking IOC is like exists. We can have it in like in any country. Like
Sweden.
There's so many. Never in Sweden, okay?
Okay.
Sweden is worse than China. Okay, but what I'm saying, I'm sorry.
Wow.
With everyone on the
You are living in your own little culture bubble. Like there's different cultures around the world. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, we're gonna move
Sorry,
on.
but mass internment is not acceptable in any culture. We're not gonna do this cultural relativism stuff. That doesn't work. Sorry.
America. Yes.
We're gonna throw it over to Fabian because Fabian's been waiting a whole long time.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this feels like an episode of All Gas, No Brakes. I'm not really sure what's going on here. Apparently, again, we kind of mostly agree, except for Roadman, that maybe, we have different varying degrees of what level we should boycott, either as individuals, as state governments, what that should look like. But I think we kind of all agree that the Olympic Committee is a corrupt and fucked up organization, and that China is a terrible nation state. I don't know that everyone necessarily agrees with me that this nation state pride is an issue, and that is what it is. But I guess I just wanted to reiterate that point and ask Roadman TV just one question. Did you just figure out like a good grow box in your basement and you're testing out your results tonight? Like, what's going on?
Nah, bro. You know what it
You
is?
get some new spores? Like, what's up?
No. Everybody. I come on here. I come on these Twitch debates. I've been doing this for about 3 months, and everybody's got a fucking thing to say. Everybody's got a topic to talk about. Like they want to change your mind and they want to get their viewpoint out there. But like, bro, I'm here to give love, bro. I'm trying to spread the love around, and that's all I'm doing. I don't understand.
Yeah, let's just
I
spread
appreciate
some
it. Sounds like
he's
that
got new
love
spores.
to the Muslim Uyghurs, right? That's what I'm saying, right? Let's spread some love, take them out of the camps, put them where they belong, right? Like in their homes.
Where they belong. Whoa, Dario.
Exactly. In their
Whoa,
homes.
Dario.
What are you talking about there?
Okay, we're gonna go.
Why did you bring Dollar Store CTV on? Was CTV not available?
He actually wasn't.
I actually have a disagreement with you, Rose Wrist. If we
With
wanna...
me?
Okay, but
Yes.
before you open up a new can of worms, I want to throw it over to Turk because he's been waiting. And Merrick, I think you raised your hand. I can't tell.
Yeah, so it goes more in line with what Dario was talking about. So it's like, okay, let's say that the United States decides to boycott the Olympics, and it has ripples across the international scene. Do we think China would care if we boycotted the Olympics, like either monetarily, culturally, or whatever?
So it depends on the degree, I would say. Number one, if it's monetarily, so let's say we ban like a viewing of the broadcast in the United States, I think they would take a substantial hit to their profits.
Nobody's
The
watching it anyways.
Well,
But
they
China
are.
cares.
They
So-
are.
No, so here's
It's
the
at
thing.
historic
The viewing-
lows of viewership, by the way.
Yeah, it's 43% down.
Sure,
But
but
I
they
think the thing-
they still make 70%, like
no, here's
70%
the
of
thing.
their money from the viewers.
Here's the thing. Cities almost always lose money and do not gain money, right? The reason that people host, right? The reason that people host these games is not really for the money. What they're doing is they're hoping to get additional tourism in the future. They're hoping to get some nation pride. They're hoping to show like, some dances, or if it's 1936 Germany, your military, right? They're hoping to boast to the world the power of their nation and to hopefully gain resources in the future. So if we were to boycott, if America was to fully boycott and pull everything out, I think the important thing to understand is the cultural differences between the West and how we kind of view politics and view culture compared to the East. And one of the things is that the East, and this is part of the part and parcel of like when Trump was negotiating with Korea, right? It was this weird thing where everyone was like, holy shit, what the fuck is Trump doing? He's like yelling and canceling meetings and shit. But this is kind of how politics works over in the Far East. And that is if you pull out, they have egg on their face. And to Westerners, it's not as big of a substantial hit to the culture and the people and the community as it is in, let's say, China. If we were to pull out, if them looking bad hurts them a lot more than it would, let's say, our culture.
But do you think it would make them look as bad as you're making it feel like they would? Because China is a superpower. If they say, "Oh yeah, the U.S. isn't coming," all right, cool.
No. Because Western liberal democracies are far more concerned with appearing good and appearing right, and Far Eastern countries are far more they're far more concerned with appearing powerful and ideas of like being respected. Obviously,
it would
both
hit their
countries
respect.
care about both.
Well, when you say it would hit on their respect,
Absolutely, I'm saying it would be effective in some
Do
way.
they care that another country doesn't respect them?
Well, if it's the United
They
States,
care about the naming of South China Sea. Obviously, they fucking care.
It's about global legitimacy, right? It's about legitimizing people on the global stage.
Exactly. But one thing,
already
can I just make one point
Come
to
at me.
FL Scott?
Okay.
Well, I just one quick point to FL Scott, right? And I don't know if we agree or disagree on that. Like when you say you don't make money from hosting the Olympics, right? I understand what you mean, right? As in it's not particularly profitable, but it does make your country more wealthy in terms of that it employs people, right? You spend the money to employ people to keep the economy going in that area, and those people are all people who have jobs, like presumably like creating events and such. So, and like I hear this talking point a lot, right? Oh, it doesn't make money, so why should we care, right? But it does make money. It helps grow the GDP, right? By employing people and like circulating the money.
They lose money. They actually
lose
they
money.
net lose money.
Like there have been a
that's
lot
what
of
I'm saying.
studies.
Like
They
there's
lose
money.
money.
Like yeah, it employs people for a very limited amount of time, for like a couple months, like maybe building the venues and stuff like that. But it's a net loss overall.
Sure,
They
but
also end up
Amazon
displacing
loses
people as
money,
well.
right? It doesn't Amazon like
No.
report net
No.
deficits?
No.
Well, how
It's
no?
because it's more than financial, right? It's not just about losses in a financial sense. It's also
Exactly.
about gains in the financial sense. It's about gains in the other senses.
Exactly,
That's
right?
why I
That-
made a multifaceted argument. I was
Most
just
of the
simply stating
places that end
that
up
the money
aside from-
loss isn't
no,
gonna be
most
that
of the
big.
places where the Olympics are held end up being ghost towns afterwards. There are a few places like Utah does pretty good with their parks, whatever, Parks Utah, whatever it's called. I've been there personally. There's other places, but like China, it's going to be, they're not going to get anything from this. Sochi in Russia, they're not going to get anything after this. It's literally ghost towns.
I mean, what are they going to do? Transfer the slopes that are in the back scene there and convert it into another stack
What'd I
cooling
do?
tower?
You just
You're
type
banging
in
your keys.
Oh, sorry. Okay, moving it.
No, I think there's a misunderstanding here. Like it is a net negative on the countries financially, right? Like you can say like goodwill and like government or like national pride, but like these
PR
countries
as
for
well.
the most part have lost money, and it continues to get worse. That's
so-
why I.
Over the
So
Olympics.
why would people do it if it lost the money every single time, right? So what I'm saying is just the money, the number on the sheet of the paper isn't actually the point, right? Financials are much more complicated than that, right? And I think long term, all nations believe that they will gain money, resources in the long term by keeping people employed, by growing their reputation in the world. Like all of these things are financial gains. Like you can say they lose money at the end of the day, but in the same way that like the biggest companies in the world lose money, right? Like they lose money because
No, they don't.
reinvest.
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
No,
What do you mean
it's
lose
a
money?
It's a state-funded apparatus with corrupt organizations that steal money, selling
Yeah.
this idea that it's going to land long-term benefit from tourism that almost never checks out. Sometimes it does. I think in Brazil,
mm-hmm.
for example, they ended up gaining because of it. It's not always a net negative, but usually they end up losing money. And so what I was saying is that it's not really the money, the reason these countries do it. They do it for the clout, right? They're just like Twitch streamers, but at the nation state level. They're doing shit like talking about Hassan,
Sure, but why do
even though
they?
it's a
What
dumb
I'm asking,
topic, for clout.
what I'm asking is, why do they want the clout?
So,
Why would
for
any
example,
nation state
one of
want
the major
clout?
reasons I think why China has been willing to do that is because, okay, think about it. Recently in Western media, what kind of coverage has China been getting? It's pretty negative. It's like an authoritarian, social credit, Bing chilling, all the rest of that. So what does it send? What message does it send to the world if they're like, okay, hey, by the way, Olympics here in China, woo, let us show you a carefully curated kind of like scene of what China is. There's no way, like, all these atrocities that people say about China and all these disgusting things about China could be happening here. It gives them a chance to do like a paint over or a makeover about public perception of them as a country.
Sure,
And
like
that's
a
one of the major reasons why
reputational
they do this.
shift.
Yeah, kind of.
I'm-
It's not
I'm-
gonna
it's
single-handedly
not-
change
for the
everyone's
record,
mind on China, but it has a role to play.
Are
For
we,
the
are we
record,
not going to
it's not their money they're losing, like their governments. Like,
are we not going to talk about the ongoing impact on trade that it has?
You mean the
The,
Olympics?
the Olympic effect, yeah. I've got a study here that
What?
says that hosting a mega event increases exports. Apparently, it's robust, permanent, and large, and trade can be as
That's
high.
good.
Hey, well, I just think we're focused, but I think there's clearly, like, listen, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but like just a very rudimentary Google search has brought up a load of studies which seems to suggest that there is a more profound impact than just what we're talking about here. And I just wonder if we.
I mean, I agree, and that was sort of what I was trying to get at, right? Like I believe that every single country or every single state, while they might not be successful necessarily every single time, what they're going for is they're trying to grow their country, grow their country's resources, make money, right? And this is like one of the ways, as Chud mentions, right? Like there are a number of ways, and it isn't as simple as just saying, "Oh, we'll look at the sheet of paper," right? That's all I'm saying.
Wait, Dario, you said before that you had a disagreement with one of my things. What was that?
Yes. It's about you don't. I believe you said in your intro that you don't believe that not sending athletes, or you believe that sending the athletes is good, right? You don't believe they shouldn't send the athletes. And I was just curious.
Okay, yeah. I can elaborate on that a little bit if you want to.
Go ahead.
So I understand that, like, hey, the athletes are going to be the major thing, right? The athletes are going to be like, nobody gives a fuck if the U.S. like representatives or diplomats went. Like, yeah, nobody cares.
Coming. Right?
Yeah, exactly. The
So
U.S. is
moral.
here. Their athletes are here. They're going to be participating. That's all anyone ever cares about. I understand that from that perspective, and I understand that I'm not going to be like, okay, well, we shouldn't, maybe we shouldn't restrict athletes' ability to do here because, it's not going to have that big of an impact anyway. I'm saying that, okay, I recognize it's going to have a fucked and big impact. That's probably the major thing there. However, I'm mixed. I'm non-decided on this issue. I also feel like, holy shit, it must suck to be an elite athlete and do all that necessitates, all the work, all the training, all like the sleep schedule, the intense eating, especially for all the time like leading up to the Olympics. It's something that you've dedicated your entire life on. It's something that you build your self-worth and self-esteem about. It's something that's very important to you and the like communities around you and your like social net or whatever. And for people to be like, okay, sorry, we're not going this year at all. Especially for somebody that might not be very politically implicated. I can understand that is probably really fucking sucks for those athletes, and I think that's
solution.
That's really rough.
Here's my solution to that problem. Okay, number one, fuck the IOC. Okay, fuck them.
Yeah.
Hold the event in the U.S. instead. Right, most of the best athletes are in the United States anyway. Right, hold your own
Dario,
event.
you're the
compete with
European. You're
them,
supposed to help us.
invite,
You're supposed to fight us back.
Europe, invite all the other countries to the United States and say, hey, we'll outdo you. We'll do a bigger, better, more broadcasting. Dylan Burns is going to host it. It's going to be amazing, okay? That's what I'm saying. Live on Twitch, the Olympics.
Only if I get to use Hippy Dippy judges.
Yes.
yeah, of course.
But unironically,
Okay.
on ironic point, okay? Host it in the US instead.
Yeah, fair enough. But do you think that because that's not an option for this Olympic, do you think that the U.S. should not have sent their athletes for this Olympics?
Yeah, I do believe so. Or at the very least do the thing that they do. I believe they did it the last Olympics, like where if some athletes do choose to go, they're not officially like from the US, like they're just like countryless or whatever, and they go something like that. Like at the very least, yeah.
Well, so Dario, I have a question for you. If we don't send our athletes and we don't participate in this, what do you think that actually does in terms of the situation in is it Shenzhen? I never know how to say it. It's Shenzhen, correct?
So I think
Xinjiang.
I think
Xinjiang. Okay,
what-
thank you.
So I think it puts pressure. Number one, it put pressure on China, but number two, it creates more outroar about the situation, right? Like people are going to be talking about like why aren't the U.S. sending their athletes, and like why are they boycotting the entire thing? And then everybody's going to be talking about the genocide that's happening, right? Like that's what I think. I want to create more political outrage about this
Okay.
and
Sure.
hurt
Do
them
you not?
economically.
Do you not think there's like a lot of outrage about it already?
Yeah, but you can always do more, right? I mean, I don't necessarily think that the average person knows about what's going on. Like at least not in detail, right? They might have heard the name the Uyghurs before, right? But that doesn't mean that they know exactly what's happening.
It's actually
And
pronounced Uyghurs, but okay.
Yeah, because the average person is watching
that's
Netflix.
racist, Chud.
Like they don't give a fuck about this shit. They're just watching Netflix and playing games on their phone, dude. That's what's happening.
They should. I'm saying they should care about this. That's what
No,
I'm saying.
I know you're saying they should, but that's what I'm saying is the average person is going to work, coming home, sitting down, watching Netflix, going to bed. They don't really research this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Jerking off? Do they jerk off as well?
Might as
I
well.
do. Might as well. Yeah.
How many times?
Okay.
Wonderful. And
I want to hear
guess-
more from Roadman on this topic. To be honest, if
I
it's possible.
don't. I think it's time for me.
I think it might be time for us to move on to. Okay, we're gonna go to closing statements. We're gonna start with Biggs in the
Right.
top left-hand corner.
Yeah, so like I said before, I think that the Olympics should be something that we try to come together as a country, but is going to be political. Whenever you have a bunch of countries getting together, there are going to be political things that are going to be, countries don't like each other. We've seen this throughout history. But as far as the China Olympics this year, like I said, I think it's up to the athletes if they want to boycott it themselves. I don't think a government should step in and tell the individuals what they should and should not do as far as boycotting. But I think we've seen, just based on the controversy that's come from the Olympics here this year and the basic wasteland that it's being held in, we just see that China is just a shit show. They're not even basically able to feed the athletes. It's like the fucking fire fucking concert that Ja Rule was trying to put on. They give them like a handful of nuts and like a piece of cheese and say, "Here you go." I think that's absolutely ridiculous when we're talking about like the creme de la creme of athletes. Not only that, we've seen a bunch of, I think, political disqualifications. I think there's been some really weirdness going on in the actual events themselves, which I think is just terrible for the athletes to be kind of put on this put in the spotlight and then have to deal with this because of political influence. I think that's just ridiculous. But hopefully the Olympic Committee will see how terrible China is. I hope the rest of the world will see how terrible China is, and maybe we can use this as a tool to try to get people to pull away from China in the future. I think we have too much intertwined with China as far as economically across the world, especially in the United States. Basically, everything that's cheap is made in China these days. So I think we need to use this as a stepping stool to try to push away from China, try to get disentangled a little bit. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think it's perfectly fine for them to diplomatically protest these games. But as far as the athletes go, if they want to compete, let them compete. Don't step in as a government, tell them what they can and can't do.
Okay, throwing it over to Chud.
So I just want to address a bit of misinformation that's been perpetuated on this panel about the meals. People are saying that all the athletes are getting fed this meal that Biggs has probably seen on the internet. He's probably seen it on Twitter and gone, "Oh, they're all getting that." That is actually the meal that athletes are getting when they're in isolation in a hotel.
Yep.
Still not acceptable, but it's still
Yeah.
bad. But in the Olympic Village, that isn't what they're eating. Presumably, they're just eating normal food. So just wanted to correct the record on that one. Other than that, I think that the sort of conversation, obviously, I didn't want to get bogged down in all of the political shit of like what is actually going on in China. I think, broadly speaking, who fucking cares? I don't. That's all I've got to say.
Dario.
Yeah, so I guess some people on the panel don't care about the Olympics even as a concept. I think the Olympics as a concept is great. It's a really good idea. As Ropeman put it, it's a great feat of humanity to show off like the physical bodies, the physical strength of the athletes, and I enjoy it. But I think our outrage should be with the organization which controls the Olympics currently, which is the IOC. And it is, as people mentioned, insanely corrupt, and they are to blame for this situation. And we should hurt them where it matters. We should hurt them on their money. And if they don't buckle, if they don't care, you create another organization. I think that's the best solution. Right now, there's a bill on the floor, a bipartisan bill, which removes their tax exempt status. I think that's a good step in the right direction, and I think we should do more to remove their ability to, not care about human rights that they say they do, and stop the athletes from protesting, which is atrocious.
Throwing it over to Fabian.
Yeah, so I guess to reiterate a little bit, obviously the Beijing Olympics should be, in my opinion, boycotted fully. You know, the mistreatment of athletes to me, and like the poor athletes that can't go and get, compete for their gold medal, to me is so fucking far down on my list of reasons why we should be against this. Number one, the entire committee is a fucking corrupt organization that steals money and has done so several times. But more importantly, not getting into the doping scandals and all of that, and the nation states and all that stuff. China's a horrible fucking totalitarian regime, and we shouldn't be glorifying, and we shouldn't be putting our support behind legitimizing. What occurred in the anti-extradition laws in Hong Kong, the national security bill, the Uyghur Muslims, the censorship that they consistently engage in, the way that they teach journalists, the fact that they won't let human rights individuals investigate what is going on, and the list goes on and on and on. And while we're having this conversation, there are hundreds of Instagram influencers and YouTube channels that have been proven to have been accepting money from the CCP so that they can shill for these very games, right? Like, we're actually in a propaganda war in this topic, and people want to talk about what some shitty food the athletes are getting, or kumbaya about sports that we play at a nation state level. And my last one, and this is obviously more of the anarchistic take from me, is that this entire thing is just a circle jerk for nation states. And I'll leave with this, a quote from Boycotting: "The state is not the fatherland. It is the abstraction of the fatherland. The common people of all countries deeply love their father, but this is a natural, real love. The patriotism of the people is not just an idea, it is a fact. But political patriotism, love of the state, is not the faithful expression of it."
Okay, throwing it over to Merrick.
Sure. So I guess in terms of sports and the Olympics, I don't really care. I do care about the exploitation of athletes. That is something that I think would be, that's something that I actually care about. Athletes training and not necessarily getting to go to the Olympics, while that is sad, I don't know that that's necessarily the most important thing to consider if we are actually trying to bring attention and care about mass internment. That said, if we are trying to care and do something about mass internment, which I would like the United States to do, I would like to see us doing a lot more than just not sending diplomats. That, again, like I said in my opening statement, it feels extremely hollow to me. I don't really know that it's accomplishing anything. And I would also like us, if we as a nation are going to pretend to care about mass internment in China, I would also like us to at least pretend to care about mass internment in the United States as well. I just think this whole thing is kind of silly, and our response has been extraordinarily hollow. And again, like I said in the beginning, literally just a virtue signal.
Turk.
Yeah, so to continue on Biggs's soapbox, what would be more effective at being an impact on a global stage than an American athlete that stands on the podium that says Taipei matters or Uyghurs matter? That kind of a message would ripple globally. Sure, they would probably be arrested and all sorts of other things happen to them, but that would be probably the most effective thing that could happen to impact the global community at large. But the U.S. government is actively telling these athletes to, just play the sport, do what you're supposed to do, don't try and make a scene, in order to appease the status quo that's going on. And I think that is a terrible thing. I wish the government would back its citizens and let them have their freedom of speech and start living by some of the values that actually the America was built upon, and hopefully propagate across the nation or world. Sorry.
Rose?
Yeah, I think this was an interesting conversation. I learned a lot, among them that we have Discord and Hitler doesn't. No, but seriously, I think that I don't know about this conversation. I think that Olympics has already started. The U.S. has already done a partial boycott. Seems weird for more things to happen now. So I don't really know about the topic. I just think all in all, really, if there's anything that should be boycotted, it should be the Hippy Dippy for these garbage fucking topics that we've had so far. But otherwise, I think we're good.
Oh,
Jesus.
why'd you sign up?
Never.
Didn't sign up. I was taken in as a last minute person, and
That's crazy. Rope?
Oh man.
I just want to say
Oh my
that
God.
That's crazy.
most of the people
I
on these
respect you for
panels,
that, Dylan. Dylan.
most
Thank
of the people on these panels, probably got out first in gym class for the dodgeball tourney, so they don't even have a take on the Olympics. Like you guys don't know what you're talking about. The
I was
athletic.
a professional pole instructor.
Merrick.
Yeah, that's a little silly.
The Olympics are a feat of human extremism. Like we are seeing what humans can do, and when we do this, we are watching the best of the best. Stop getting politics into the Olympics. Go at it. Do it. Let's go. America #1. I love you, America. Fuck China.
Okay. We're gonna
Could
go.
we have a Chinese accent?
Do it. If it's funny, you can do it.
Okay. Going on to the next topic. The next topic, I guess Rose is gone forever. The next topic is going to be the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Under the House bill, a Florida school district may not encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in primary grade levels or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. The bill does not specify how age appropriate and developmentally appropriate would be defined. The bill also gives parents the ability to sue schools if they believe the schools violated any provision of the law. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has come out and given his support to the bill, or at least signaled it. And there is basically back and forth going on about whether this bill should or should not be written into law in Florida. So my question to you is, would you support said legislation where you are, or would you be against it?
What's going on, baby? What's up?
We're going to throw it first over to Turk.
So I think the biggest thing to stick on here is the word encouraged, right? Because I don't think in the bill that doesn't say we can't teach these sorts of topics, and we can't say what is or isn't a safe execution of. Sorry, I've got kids still awake. So it's like that, I think, is the crux of the entire conversation, right? Because you can still propose a lot of these topics and discuss them as a class and provide education towards this topic. I think the goal of it is to prevent the encouragement of it. So I think that might be the bigger sticking point for me, myself. Do I support the bill? Kinda, not really. I would much rather, and then this will probably be where I deviate from the most conservatives. It's like, I want my kids to know about the world. I want them to be taught about things in a factual manner and not be swayed one way or the other. I want them to come to their own conclusions and be provided with the assistance and support to come to those conclusions, not to be persuaded by a teacher that says, yeah, go for it, dude.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Robe Man.
This whole thing with like the pronouns and stuff like that, like I feel like in 5 years no one's gonna give a fuck about pronouns. Like I feel like it's a almost like Beanie Babies, almost like a Furby. Like it's a trend. We're doing this now. It's like the emo phase. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to feel special. And in 5 years, are we going to be talking about the Z? Now, let me say, I respect someone who wants to transition to a, like, if you feel like you're a female, that's fine, and you're a male. But when you're talking about Z, zhong, bang, bang, ging, gang, gong, bang, like, I don't want to talk about that shit. That shit is goofy. Like, I want. Let's get to the real shit. This shit is not real. All these things are goofy. That's what I gotta say.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Chud Logic.
Okay, I mean, how do you follow that? Well, what I'll follow with is something a little bit more serious. In fact, there we have history in the UK of this. There was something called Section 28, which was introduced. It was a piece of legislation that prohibited the promotion of homosexuality. So it's kind of funny that we've got this language of like encourage or something like that. Strikes me that we've got, in my mind, based on the history of Section 28, we're probably trying to fix an issue that doesn't really exist. I doubt there's 3-year-olds getting told that gay people exist and suddenly they turn gay. I think that's extremely far-fetched. I think that often this legislation is based primarily on culture war slop. Unfortunately, rightoids are fed a bunch of slop by propaganda machines that they're making your kids gay in school, and it makes them go out and vote for Republican politicians who know their policies aren't particularly popular. So they come up with all this culture war shit to make people vote for them, and then they can implement their true legislative agenda, which tends to be, rebalancing tax brackets towards the benefit of the wealthy, to put it simply. But yeah, I don't think this is a real issue that needs to be addressed. We can look at something, and if we do feel that the age is too young for like sex education, we can address that, we can amend that. But broadly speaking, discussions about these sorts of things can very nicely slot alongside traditional, more old school styles of sex education, and that's it.
Next, I'm going to throw it over to Biggs.
Yeah, so I kind of actually agree with Chud on this one. I think this is basically just like a Republican virtue signal for the GOP candidates to try to put something on the books. I don't think anybody's teaching primary school kids about transgenderism or gender identities, okay? To me, and I looked this up to see like what primary school is. Basically, it's like kindergarten through 5th grade or kindergarten through 7th grade, right? So to me, I don't know about the rest of you, but I had my sex education, I believe, a little bit of a segment in 5th grade, and then little bit more of a segment in 6th grade where we like separated between the sexes. So boys had a class, girls had a class, just to like prevent like some awkwardness between the sexes. But I don't think this is actually anything based on reality. Like I think this is just virtue signaling from the Republicans. I think they're going to use this as a platform for the primaries. I think that's what they're gearing up for. I think it's kind of dumb personally. I do think that there needs to be an age where we responsibly talk to students about sexual education, and along with that, we can include things like different sexual orientations, different genders. I don't think anything needs to be encouraged specifically about those things, but I think it's definitely worth educating students on the like there are people that exist that have these things. I think that's perfectly fine. But I don't think anything should be encouraged by schools as far as like anything from sexual orientation to anything like religion, anything like that. So if they're just talking about basic science, I think that's perfectly fine. I think teaching safe sex is perfectly fine. But again, it has to be age appropriate. I think this whole bill, though, is just virtue signaling from the right.
Okay, next I'm going to throw it over to Dario.
Sure. I guess this is going to be another one of those boring topics where everybody agrees. Yeah, gender and sexual orientation are two very real things that everybody has to deal with, even kids, in today's day and age. The LGBT community is growing and is mainstream, and that's a good thing. Kids are going to have questions, and they're going to talk to their friends at school about those questions, where they spend a large portion of their time. So I think it's only natural that teachers can assist and talk to them more about these things. Now, does this make sense for all kids? Are 6-year-olds talking about gender and sexual orientation? Probably not. But like an 11, 12-year-old that is just starting puberty, yeah, probably. Right. So I think it should be done in an appropriate way, which focuses on kids being kids and letting them figure themselves out, just like everybody else. And I think banning sort of education or encouragement, whatever that means, of these things happening in the classroom seems like A, very hard, and B, like a virtue signal more than anything. So yeah.
Rose and Loner. Well, Rose, you're back.
Yeah, I am. I'm back.
But
I haven't heard anything that's been going on. but that's okay.
Well, we got we got a replacement.
you a
We
pirate
got a
now?
different European.
Yeah, punish Rose right
A,
now.
a
Okay? I'm
separate,
not the same.
a separate.
More Europeans now than Americans.
Well,
Let's
Maybe.
go.
That
We're
could be the
taking over.
case. Amazing.
I think it's 50-50 now, right?
Yeah. We're
well,
balancing
now there's
out.
too many people.
5-5.
Well, what are you gonna do, Dylan?
Somebody's
That's
got to
awkward.
go.
What am I gonna do?
I think people should donate and
Let's do it
sell
already,
Rose, do you
Dylan.
want to
We
know
know
what
what you're
you're
gonna
gonna
do.
You know what I'm gonna do, Rose?
We know
Because
what you're gonna do.
I have
We
movie
know what you're
stickers
gonna do.
everywhere, and I heard you leaked my DMs while I
I
was.
leaked
Oh.
one DM.
You leaked a DM,
No.
and that is
Oh,
a,
no.
One
a,
DM.
a
Was it a
crime.
spicy one?
It was it was the spiciest of
It was
DMs.
very. I
actually.
saw it right. I
Ooh.
saw it happen.
Yeah.
I saw it,
Yeah.
and that was very. I was like, okay, this guy's too busy whining when he should be debating and jumping back in
Uh-huh.
the ring. There was no ferocity, no tenacity, in your performance, Rose.
Okay. So am I being kicked out or am I staying? What's happening?
Well, I don't know
I
because
wanna
I,
know-
I got Loner to replace you.
All right, I'll do it. Fuck it. Okay, we'll see. We'll be 11. How many people are we right now? Like, fucking too many.
I
people.
love
Okay,
you,
but that's fine. We'll
Rose.
work. Okay, when it comes to
You're
this bill,
awesome.
generally it seems it's very vague.
So he's
which
not
is
part
going
of
to
this
be a-
conversation. So I'm going to try and, talk over him so we can't hear what he says.
Okay, assert your authority, Turk.
There we go.
Okay, hold on.
Silence.
So what,
Extremely alpha.
I gotta get my
Okay,
opening.
okay,
joke.
okay,
I'm,
okay.
I'm
Filibuster.
taking my
Hey,
openings.
Roadman, did you and your
Filibuster.
roommates
Okay,
buy those?
I have to get.
Costco?
Okay. You know what? This is how we'll do it. Okay, chat. You choose. Which European do you want? Okay, we'll do a poll. First time Hippy Dippy history. Loner or Rose?
Whoa.
Okay,
Ooh.
that's how we're doing it. We're having fun tonight.
Should Loner do an intro?
So Loner, can you introduce yourself?
I'm gonna
since
take a
people-
piss. I'm gonna take a piss while you do this.
Okay. What do you think? Introduce yourself, Loner, quick before the people vote.
Can me and Loner like do a debate?
I
or
am
something?
Lonerbox and I make videos and stream.
Yes.
You should do an untrademarked cage match to decide who remains in the ring.
Loner.
Okay, but I have-
Untrademarked though.
What's going on with your head, though? Legitimately, what's happening here?
It's my best attempt at an outfit. I could not
What?
work out together. I don't know. I'm supposed to, it's like the punish vibe I'm going for, but I don't even
You
know
work
what
out as a
any of it.
You
pirate?
look great, babe. You look great.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
that
Especially
like
this little bit of
help
hair
depth
coming out here.
perception?
It looks
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, the little curl, yeah. it's
Yeah,
good.
and how like yeah, this is.
The glasses
fashion.
over top really.
You
make
know
it-
what? Hey, I feel bad for Loner. He just got pulled in here for literally no reason. If I'm gonna go, I might as well just.
Wait, hey, now that you see you're losing the vote, now you're
I'm
like,
winning
oh,
the vote.
No,
Wait,
you're.
oh, is this who's staying or who's going?
This is who's staying.
Oh, okay. Well, then Loner's gonna win anyway. Then we're good.
Okay.
I thought it was who's
I
gonna lose.
appreciate you, Rose.
I don't know if that's true. You call me a gimmick.
Well,
I saw that
then
clip.
This is a lot easier then. Okay. Loner, your intro.
Yeah, the bill seems vague. I'm just going to talk about what happens here and see what we can learn from. I've learned from a family friend not long ago that kids who are like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 are starting to learn like not only, gay, but like, they can actually like draw like a trans flag and a non-binary flag and an agender flag. Like they know the difference between all of these. And I'm like, you might think that's, silly identities. It's all made up. Well, they learn the flags of countries and they're no more real than or fake than these identities. So, yeah, fuck it. I'll just see what happens in the open battle. Though I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay. Fabian?
Yeah, I almost feel bad for the amount of research that I actually did in preparing for like debating this with like some heavyweights or something. And instead, so far, all I've seen is a bunch of people that have no idea what the fuck is in this bill. Even though it's a 4-page fucking bill, like it's pathetic. They have no idea the context that is occurring. So I'm going to basically spend the entire panel educating you idiots. So, to start off,
Imagine researching for a panel, cringe.
Hey.
yeah. So to start off, the cultural context behind the Parental Rights in Education HB 1557 comes around January Littlejohn, right? This comes from an individual who was a master's in counseling, stay-at-home mom whose 13-year-old daughter was transitioned at school against her will. Not only that, she had a friend group of individuals, and 3 out of the 5 people in a span of 3 months transitioned. And so she said that there were no early onset signs. She thought that this was an issue. They went to counseling. She had to speak with the teachers. And then the school hid everything from them, transitioned her, changed her documents, got counseling to reinforce her transition and things of that nature. And she had to fight against the school, and then found out that over a dozen counties had all of these rules instantiated where if a child said that they wanted to transition or something like that, that they could do so. And not only would they do so, they could choose whether or not they spent overnight time with boys or girls and field trips, what bathrooms they use, and all of these services. And it was actually against the law for the school to be able to release any documents to parents, and that they were encouraged, that's where the term encourage comes from in the bill, that they were encouraged to intentionally hide information about the children's welfare, mental health, who they're seeing, what guidance counselors are going to, etc., from parents. This is reestablishing parental rights to be involved in what is occurring with your children. And that is what this bill is designed to do. Yes, there is a small section of the bill that talks about teaching developmentally inappropriate things to primary school children. And that's because, you know, we've all seen the videos. It's rare. And this is part of the part where it gets a little bit silly. It is rare. But in schools, they are teaching children all kinds of things that parents may not want to know about. And they are hiding that information from parents, not telling them, and actually encouraging them not to let their parents know what they're learning in school because they're worried that the parents might complain or teach their children something different. This is asserting the fact that parents have rights and that the state is not the parents of your children. And we will get into a lot more, I'm sure.
Okay, Merrick.
Yeah, so I also read the bill. And I don't know about this story you just told. I suppose it's possible that a school forced a child to transition. I would imagine that. Honestly, I don't really believe you. I don't really think it's real. It's possible that it's real, but it doesn't sound very real. If
Well,
it
you'd
did
know if you did
happen,
your research.
incredible. So, I don't think that this is something that's happening all the time. I don't think that this is something that's happening with any degree of frequency at all. So something that is in this bill is that the school district has to provide parents any and all information about a child's emotional, mental, and physical well-being. And this includes things like disclosure of gender identity, disclosure of sexual orientation. It also applies to counseling services. And throughout the bill, the language that they use is definitely like an encouragement of these sorts of topics. But then when we look at the people who are pushing the bill forward, it's people like, you know, Ron DeSantis, who says that these conversations do not and should not be taking place in schools at all, period. So while the language in the actual bill itself is sort of vague, that actually leaves a lot of room for it to be interpreted whichever way conservatives want. Another thing that's in the bill is that even though the state is sort of imposing these guidelines, they actually give the parents the ability to sue school districts if the parents feel that the school district is failing in any of these aspects. So this is something that we have also seen, like in the Texas Heartbeat bill, right? Where it's not going to be the state that's suing the school district or the state that's suing the teachers based on the guidelines that they set out. They actually open it up to civilians, or in this case, that would be the parents, right? So they can bring lawsuits. And I guess the thing that's really concerning here is that, yes, this does apply to elementary school kids. So typically we're talking kids who are ages like kindergarten through, 12 years old. And yeah, I mean, I do think that, you know, these are very young kids. Like, but at the same time, we can also look at the statistics for the Trevor Project, which is the largest suicide prevention project in the entire United States right now. In 2021, they surveyed 35,000 LGBT youth starting at ages 13. and they saw that 42% of them had thought very seriously about killing themselves last year. They also surveyed. There's something called, I think it's GlinSat. I'm not sure. I have the link right here, and I looked through the report they published today. But they surveyed, I think it was like close to 900 LGBTQ students in Florida, and the vast majority of them said that they had been either, I mean, almost all of them said that they had been verbally harassed, but more than 2/3 of them said that they had been physically harassed, and I believe 1 in 10 students said that they had been physically assaulted for being LGBTQ+. So when we're looking at a situation where we're putting forth a bill that says we can't even talk about gender identity, we can't even talk about sexual orientation, I think that this sends a really, really, really bad message to children who are already really vulnerable. And the thing is, like, I care about outcomes. So I don't want more children to feel like they don't belong. I don't want more children to potentially want to hurt themselves. And I don't believe that not teaching about identity and not teaching about the current science that we have that says that gender and sex are different, and that says that there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay. I don't think that any positive outcomes come from not teaching that and making children feel like their identities are so taboo that they can't even be spoken about. I also think that when you disclose information about this to the parents of children, you literally put those children in danger. So I don't really see any positive outcomes coming from this bill, and it does seem like it's bigoted virtue signaling from Florida politicians who are trying to expand their voter base.
Okay. Dario, have you gone yet?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody's gone. Wonderful. Now we're going to bring it into the open section. Who wants to start us off? I'm gonna throw it to Loner since he's new.
Maybe, and I have some questions. If I remember correctly, you said that the school transitioned this girl at the age of 13 against her will or against the parents' will?
I didn't say that they transitioned her against her will. I
Okay.
said that it was against the parents' wishes, that they specifically spoke to the teacher and explained the counseling process that they were going to, that they didn't see early onset signs of this, and that they had spoken to the teacher, and that the child and the teacher in the school worked together to hide information from the parents.
Okay. So first of all, early onset signs, I don't know if this would count, but the parents did actually tell the teacher that she had the non-binary, they then had gender dysphoria and was seeing a mental health counselor. When
Yes.
when you say they tried to transition the child, what does that mean?
They
What were
legally
doing?
changed the child's name. They changed what bathrooms they were using. They changed what they were they had a, what was it called, quote, a what is it called, transgender non-conforming student support plan that included all elements of what bathroom they were using, what how the teachers would address them, sent them to the guidance counselor to speak about it. So they're getting mental health without the parent knowing, and they are affirming the gender at the school, while the parents and the counselors out of the school are not affirming the gender, which is
Okay.
obviously going to have issues for the child.
Wait, do you have a so
Wait,
just
wait,
quickly?
wait.
Do you have a source on them legally changing your name? Because
Yeah, they
everything I'm
didn't.
reading
Okay,
is
okay, wait,
just,
yeah.
the
I was gonna
school
So
say
they're
that.
called
changing
Well,
the name in the school and what they go.
No,
Well,
no,
that's not
Fabian,
legally, right? That's not
Dario,
legally.
please,
They
no,
didn't.
no, please, Dario, it doesn't matter.
If you
It
want
doesn't
to,
matter.
if you want to be that,
Stop. We're gonna let Loner follow up because I think he had a follow up.
The legal thing doesn't matter. The parents actually accepted the name change. They just
Yes.
declined pronouns.
No,
So
they
it wasn't a
accepted a
legal name change.
nickname.
And the nickname was the name that she wanted. She wanted to be called Jay, and the parents said you can be called Jay. This is a nickname instead of name change. The school can't legally change your name. They just changed your name in the same way that the parents accept
You're
it.
being pedantic
So,
about the
I'm
name.
not being pedantic. You said they
I mean,
legally changed her name against the
I would
parents'
say that
will.
that's a pretty big difference.
Legal
Okay.
documents. They didn't legally change the name. Now, if you want to talk about the issues here, instead of being pedantic and actually talk about the history of what is occurring, the issues here are the fact that they didn't tell the parents, right? That this is obviously harmful to a child and harmful to parental rights and the Florida Parental Bill of Rights that needs to be reaffirmed here in the parental rights in education. because the child is getting one type of care and environment at school, and then completely something different at home, and they have to figure out from what it is that their child is kind of, I guess, tattling on themselves in some regard, so that they even know what's going on, and then they had to fight and fight for weeks and weeks before they would finally even shown anything.
I think
Um,
I
The bathroom thing you kind of exaggerated as well. They just asked which bathroom she wanted to use, and she said she didn't really care. So that's a big deal.
How is that
As for
exaggerated?
so your big problem really is that the parents didn't know. But I'm wondering, like, isn't this in certain cases, isn't this kind of normal? Like, I'm pretty sure if a child's gay and the school has reason to believe that the parents might be, say, abusive or might not respect that, then it's in the child's interest actually for the school not to let the parents know.
This
It
is
should
why you
be
should read the
that's
bill.
up to the child's
Line 72.
discretion.
This subparagraph does not prohibit a school district from adapting procedures that permit school personnel to withhold such information from a parent if a reasonably prudent person would believe that disclosure would result in abuse, abandonment, or neglect as defined in State Statute 39.1. So
Okay.
again, that's why you gotta
wait,
read the
but why? So FL Scott, I'm just so I will accept what you said because I didn't read the bill and I'll be honest about that, right? So I'm gonna accept that at face value. What I want to ask you is, so philosophically, right? Do we think that the school has a an obligation to inform their parents of all these things, right? So let's say that the school somehow found out that, let's say, I don't know, a 14 or 15-year-old or whatever had sex, right? They found out. Like, are they obligated to tell their parents, "Hey, your child had sex, and we know"? Right? Is that a thing the school should be
You
doing?
said we, right? But I think the question is more directed at me philosophically. I think that the school are that the children are wards taken care of during the portion that they are at school, but ultimately it is the parents that are the custodians of the rights of the children, and that the children do not have the means to consent to a whole slew of things, and that's why parents need to be involved, and that's why parents have rights to be informed in this regard.
Are
Sure.
you
So
a Murray
I guess
Rothbard fan?
Am I a Murray Rothbard fan? I'm an anarcho-capitalist, so yeah.
Okay,
my
that
issue
makes
is
sense.
that I don't think these things as presented as you presented and as I saw, I don't think these things are that big of a deal. And I don't think that we should inform parents on things that aren't that big of a deal. I think, let's say, I think if the school found out that the child had a suicide attempt at school, right? I think that would be a big deal, and we should inform the parents about that, right? Like to make sure that they take care of the child. But I think a child just exploring like their gender identity or whatever, or like even like their
Yeah,
sexuality.
I'm just going to fundamentally disagree. Like what you define as a big deal is not a big deal. It's a violation of rights and could lead to a lot of instances are big deals.
Well, sure, but like it's only a violation of parental rights if we classify this thing as like a thing we should always inform parents about, right? So like the school isn't violating the parents' rights
But
by saying, "Hey,
they're not just not telling the parents, right? They're encouraging the children to not tell the parents. And when parents ask about what is going on with their children, they're being informed that it is illegal for them without the child's consent to have access to medical information and documents about their own child."
So I think we might have a middle ground here where I do think so there are some things about that where I would certainly raise a brow. I don't think it should so I
Sexual
don't think
orientation and gender and shit, like I'm not that's not part of the bill I'm for.
no no
Like
no no
if you wanna
I'm
teach sexual orientation
sure
in fucking third grade, like as long as the parents are informed.
sure. So I definitely do think that there should be more information between like the school and the parents, and I do think that you could possibly read some of the prescriptions from the bill in a very very charitable manner, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them, right? So if we just say, okay, hey, the parents should have an open communication zone with the school about the child's and the child's well-being, right? And if the school has any reason to believe that the parents are going to take this in a negative way, or they're going to be abusive towards the child, or like even have any like suspicion, then they are within their rights to withhold that information. I think that's perfectly fine, right? I don't think that's something that should be legislated.
That's what 90% of this bill is. And
Yeah,
instead, the
but
exact
I'm not.
opposite has been legislated against parents.
Can you repeat
What
that?
you're for is basically for a majority of this bill, and you
Yeah,
should be
that's
you're supporting the
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I don't think it should be legislated. That's what I think, right? Because
already legislated in the opposite direction. So this bill is designed to fix the problems that have been legislated, where individuals can hide information in documents and actually make it apparently, supposedly illegal in certain counties, roughly a dozen counties.
That's what I'm saying. I do believe that they should be able to hide information if they do believe that there is reason to hide that information, right?
This bill reaffirms that. But we're
Yes.
not talking about that. We're talking
Yes.
about keeping parents out and not involved in all instances, which is by the wishes of the child, and the child does not have that right to consent to what that means.
Children do. Children are not the property of their parents. They're
Exactly.
people. And if they don't feel comfortable telling their parents about their gender or their sexual orientation, then they shouldn't be forcibly outed to people that they have to depend on and live with. You're literally putting children in dangerous situations when you do that. Once again, children are not property.
Especially given the fact that, like, if a child comes out as trans, their chance of like getting kicked out of their house like skyrockets. Okay, it's like
Exactly.
it's a very dangerous thing to do.
It's a myth.
So this is
It's not a myth.
this is
not a
I can
myth.
show you the data. You lied about like
have
three
data
things
about
about
this.
You lied about like three things with the
can you
story as
post
well.
the
Like,
data
this was
in an
specifically
email?
stop, what I was trying to get at.
Stop. The four of you are talking at the same time. Turk, Loner, FL, and Dario. So specifically, I want to hear Loner explain how he thinks is a myth. Then we'll have Fabian respond. Then we're gonna go to the other people that want to get involved. Like Turk.
Can I say something real quick first?
It'll be 5 seconds.
Yeah, if you have that data, post it into VC chat so we can be informed in our discussions.
Okay. Loner.
I'll just give you the data. It's fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right, what are you using? What study?
Voice text here in Discord.
It's I'll send it in the I'll find the
Or
group
in the
chat, don't
private,
worry.
yeah.
So
Or even in
Fabian,
the Discord chat. Or the stream chat.
Fabian, while he finds the data, this is what I was trying to get at. Like I wanted to get you there because this is actually what I believe, right? I believe actually that children in general have less rights that they should have, right? I don't think parents should have all these rights over children because presumably the children are going to grow up to be individual beings, right? I don't think parents should have that much influence over their children. And I do believe that I do believe in general, like probably most parents want the best for their children, but there are many cases, especially within LGBT communities, where this is not the case, and we need to realize this is a reality and we have to deal with that, right? And I think a big part of that is affirming the children's rights rather than the parents' rights.
Yeah, well, I don't think that children have a right to consent to these. I think that's a ludicrous idea that children can hide information and get counseling services by the state and get the state to take the role of the parent as the guardian of their rights. I think that's a recipe for propaganda and all kinds of problems that are obviously not going to work out in the child's best interest. What's in the child's best interest is the fact that the parents are the guardian or the custodian of their rights, and that they need to be involved in this. And to separate them from that is just a power grab by the state to be able to control your children more and more so that they can propagandize them in the ways that they want. And we need to reestablish and reaffirm the parental rights. Now, did you have that study you wanted to post?
So I think this is
Getting
just
a few for you. Don't worry.
I think this is just a fundamental philosophical disagreement then I think between us, because while I don't believe the state necessarily should be having this power, right? I do believe that communities should have some responsibility over all the children that exist within those communities, right? And I believe the more people are sort of crowdsourced into raising a child, the better the outcomes for the child are going to be, right? And I do believe that generally we place too much onus, too much responsibility on parents, and I do think that parents oftentimes either intentionally or unintentionally abuse this power they have over their children to indoctrinate them way worse than a community could. And I believe that's the actual disgrace that I want to address.
But parents are ultimately the caregivers of the children. They have a huge stake in how the kids, operate and how they behave, right? Because if they don't, they are brought into lots of these things legally.
Sure, and in a perfect world, I'm sure we don't have parents that abuse their children and kick them out for being transgender, but we don't live in a perfect world.
But
We
that's
live in
where
a
the
world where
power
lots of
grab statement comes from.
It's not about a power grab, it's about keeping children safe and giving them a safe place to go. A lot of children talk about their school being their safe place to explore concepts like their sexuality and their identity without being in a dangerous home situation. We have surveys on this. Again, we have the Trevor Project did a massive survey on this. I can link these in the Discord if you'd like, but children themselves will tell you that they are afraid to talk about these things at home, that they need to have this safe outlet at school. So, I think it comes down to, like, I guess you can say, oh, the state's trying to do a power grab because a counselor is willing to sit here and talk to your child about what they think about their sexuality. But I think on the flip side is this law would force children to be outed to their parents. And it's like, oh, well, if we think there's going to be abuse, but you never know if there's going to be abuse. So I don't see how you can
Scott
reasonably
actually
argue against
mentioned
it.
that was part of the law.
State
That's
employees take care of it.
No, I know,
The
but what I'm
government will
saying
do
is
a better
how
job than parents.
Well,
And
but
that you don't actually have rights as parents. Instead, the community has rights to your
well,
children.
the parents. So the
you don't
parents
have the
and
right to
I.
have your child outed to you. No. No
and
one
the
has the
bill
right to have
addresses some
one
of
of their
that.
family members outed to them. That's not a right you are afforded against their will.
Did you not
No,
listen
You
to
have
what
a
Scott
right.
said
You
about
have
the
a
bill?
right to. Nobody said anything about outing.
I actually
children.
addressed that. This is what this bill
No,
does.
you didn't.
It
No.
forces yes, it does. It forces counselors and school districts to out children
Can
to
you
their
read that
parents.
subsection again, Scott, that actually has the exemption to it?
No, I address the exemption. I said I understand there is an exemption, but what I am saying is you're not going to, in every situation, be able to judge that well. How do you judge that? Lots of people don't show you that they're going to abuse their children or flip out if they find out that their
So
child is
you
trans.
don't care
It's
about
vague
the
language.
legal exemption
It's
in
vague
place in this bill.
language. No,
Right.
I think
the
it's
issue
lip
is
service.
the
Alright,
issue is
stop.
that I could use your exact same, like, your argument's a bad argument because I can just turn the logic upside down and say the exact same thing about schools, right? Like, that if schools are given the ability to, whenever they want, hide information from parents, and that
It's not any
those
information.
schools can use and abuse that power to harm children.
It is
Well-
only information about, we're talking about sexual orientation and gender identity. We're not talking about any information ever. Those are the specific things that this bill centers around.
I find
And
it
there's
I-
specific
I don't think- I don't
exemptions
think that-
for it. So it's what you're saying is irrelevant here.
I don't think that
No, it's
argument
not.
works. I don't think that argument works logically if you flip it, right? Because presumably, and I mean, maybe you may take issue with this, right? But presumably, because we live in democracies, right? We believe that the more people generally who have influence on something is gonna move it in a more like fair direction.
We
right?
don't
And I
believe
do-
that. You
Sure,
might.
Sure,
We don't.
Sure. Sure. If you don't believe in any kind of
We
democratic,
don't necessarily believe that democratic institutions can't be corrupted, and that they
no,
wouldn't have a
obviously not.
corrupting
Obviously
influence on
not.
children.
Right? No, I would never claim that they can't be corrupted. Right? What I'm saying is, I think there is way more avenues for abuse the fewer people have power. Right? So if the only people who have 100% power over their children are the parents, and under no circumstances can we oppose the parents, that is ripe for abuse. Right? And we do already take action against these things. Right? By removing kids from abusive parents. Right? We are taking away the rights from the parents by placing rights on the kids, right? Because no matter how much you want to say that the parents are stakeholders in the future of the kids, the number one stakeholder in the kid's future is the kid, right? And we have to acknowledge that, and we have to.
Doesn't everyone
move
here just
from-
believe that children can
Bro.
consent?
You're talking about 5-year-olds though.
We're
No,
not talking
I'm
about.
not. No one
we're
is
talking about
talking
consenting
about
to a
5-year-olds.
gender identity as well. By the way, like.
I'm
Like,
talking about like 12, 13-year-olds. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, right?
Like 10,
people-
11, 13.
Everybody, okay. First of all, everybody here, you guys are both talking past the fucking point here. Okay, Fabian has already said that in circumstances of abuse being taken, there are exceptions to that, right? So I know you said that doesn't. It's hard. That's a hard thing to pinpoint and narrow down. Okay, but what I want to push back on Fabian is that this shit is already in the fucking law for medical records. This is a fucking 100% a virtue signal. All these things already apply under law currently.
No, they do not.
Yes, they do. If you
No,
look at the
they do
Florida
not.
pro-
This
yes,
is
they
happening
do.
currently.
If they are doing it, if
denying
they are already,
records.
if they are already doing it, they're breaking the law.
Okay, we're gonna
If you look at
wait. Stop.
There's no legal
stop.
standing.
Fabian. Biggs, I want you to finish your point so I understand what's going on, okay?
So there's already laws. I looked in further to actual like medical consent laws and what rights parents have medically over children. There are very specific things where children can consent, be it an emergency surgery, be it something where in the effect of its actual abuse, which you've already, taken out of this issue, right? So parents have the rights. Now, if these schools are actually breaking the law as it currently stands, they're already breaking the law. Okay. Now, I understand where, from the left side of the view, is that it's very hard to pinpoint when will these situations arise. How do we tell if this outing will cause abuse? That's super hard to fucking tell. So I
Yes.
understand kind of erring on the side of caution with this. But these
Can-
laws
Thank you.
medically are already in place for mental health and things like this. So I think, again, like I said in the beginning, that all this is to drum up political support for the midterms coming up. This stuff is already on the books. Now, whether or not that it's being applied correctly in the schools, you may be 100% right. These people may be holding information from the parents, and that is actually already illegal. Okay?
I ask a question?
That's what
Can I
I'm
ask a
saying.
First
question?
of all,
Can I-
it's not
can I-
illegal. And
Let-
second
Can
of
I
all, they don't
ask?
understand
Can
it.
I ask a question?
Well, first we're gonna have Fabian respond, but I'll write your name first in the list, okay, Rob?
That is what Section 4 of this bill is for. It's designed to give parents standing, right? Because you previously, before, if this bill doesn't pass, and as it is right now, even if they do what you is breaking the law, there's no standing for them to be able to sue the school or sue anybody or take any legal action against the school for doing that specific thing. Now, granted, you may believe that they're not doing this or that they are doing that is for some reason or another against the law, but as it is right now, no one is able to take this to the courts. So clearly, even if it is technically, in your legal opinion, breaking the law, this is obviously required because this is happening to people and they have no legal standing or recourse to get any form of damages or to actually punish these people for doing it.
So, I just want to respond real quick. Do you know HB 241, Parents' Rights Bill,
The
July 2021, that one that's already on the books?
The one that's already on the books. I mean, I've seen reference to it. I haven't read that. No.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
actually looking at that. So it actually gives standing for the mandatory reporting for some of these people in these positions.
Yes.
However, what goes with this particular bill that we're talking about right now, if the exception is put into place, right, that a school has the ability to not tell the parental guardian of the actions that are going on, the counseling services, whatever, they are still required by this law, 39201, to report it. So it's like, it's not that this overwrites what's being going on with the bill. This is in supplement and is actually an enforcement mechanism to force the teachers to do this.
Can I ask a question? Who in this panel, by a raise of hand, if a 12-year-old comes up to you and says, "I want to be," it's a male child and says, "I want to be a girl.
This
I
is
want to
not
have
good already.
Stop. I want to be." It's a male child and says, "I feel like I'm a girl. I want to have hormones." Who here in this panel, by a raise of hand, agrees that they should have hormones?
Can I answer
This
this?
is not how the process works.
Yeah, I just listen. I've not had a chance to speak because everyone else was doing a great job, but I want to address you, Roban. Okay.
Go ahead.
So here's what I'd say. I'd
Chud.
say, look, I don't have the authority or the knowledge to deal with the concern or the issue that you're having. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend take you to a doctor, and we're going to talk about this. And we're going to talk it through, and we're going to figure out what the best course of action for you is for your well-being.
No. Stop. You're a parent, right? You're a parent.
Yep.
You're a parent. You have a child.
Yep.
They're 12 years old, and they come to you and they say, "Dad, I want to be a girl," and they're a guy. Are you going to give them hormones? Raise of a hand.
No.
Okay.
I would say, Roadman.
Do you think that the
I
school
don't know where I went
Yes.
wrong with you because that's the
hormones?
stupidest fucking question I've ever heard, and there's nothing to do with this.
All the
podcast.
hormones you want.
Stop. Okay, one person at a time. If you hear somebody else talking, give it time. Loner, you were saying? Then we're going to Merrick.
The question, okay, this has nothing to do with a parent or a teacher giving a child hormones. This was about gendering them as they would wish. So you can ask me that question.
I'm
Like-
asking you a question. A 12-year-old child, you're their parent, right? They come to you, they say, "Dad, I feel like I'm a girl. I want to have hormones." Will you give them hormones at 12 years old? Yes or no?
No, you don't give someone hormones before puberty. That's like, no, that's not how
I'm
transition
asking,
works.
but people are doing that. People are doing that
No,
today.
they're not. They're not
Yes,
doing
Roadman,
it. No,
every
they're
single
not.
time
They're
you ask
not.
that
You're
question,
lying.
Roadman,
There's-
I'm gonna give them one more hormone. That's what I'm gonna do.
To be-
Every
Oh
single time
my
you ask
God.
one more
To be
hormone.
fair, there are puberty blockers. They're not technically hormones. To be fair, like to Roadman, I think you may just be ill-informed. Okay.
So
I think
Roadman,
we all
Just-
agree on that.
That's one
hold on,
way.
hold on. I have a
Yes.
serious question. Roadman, is your concern that you think that through the schools they are going to get access to hormones when they're 12? Like, is this like a concern that you have?
That's the end of the line, right? So if
No.
I'm saying,
No.
what do you mean no?
That
Because the school doesn't
teachers
have that
are never going
authority,
to be
dude.
distributing hormones. That would always be done through a medical doctor.
Come
Okay, I
on.
understand that, but the process starts in the schools, right? They're talking to the counselor, they're going through the thing. At 12 years old, the parents can decide if they want to have their children on hormones or not. Is that true or not?
Can I tell you what happens in the real world? Because
The parent can't just decide. That's not a unilateral parent decision. You have to go to a medical doctor. They have to go through therapy. They have to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. It also depends on
Okay.
what state you're in.
Okay. Again, the doctor themselves, I can go to a doctor right now and go check, and say, I have ADHD. It's a fucking form. Like, all this shit you're talking about doctors, like,
They take this much more seriously than they
oh
take
my
ADHD.
God.
man, you're definitely not going to
Do
fool
you
a
know
mental
any
health
trans
professional. Please
people?
don't
Have
worry.
you ever heard someone talk about this process? Have you ever read about this process? It's not like going to the doctor and saying, "Please give me 30 Adderall. I have ADHD." It doesn't
Why
work.
is it
ADHD diagnosis takes a long time to get.
Can I
as
finish?
well.
Can I finish? Why is it that you panelists think that doctors are some like angelic being that could do no wrong? Doctors
There's
are
no one
people.
thinks
there's a middle ground. There's a middle ground between angelic being and people like you. And I think doctors sit
You
quite
mean
comfortably in the
Fauci
middle.
isn't our savior? What?
It's just like you.
Hey, Roadman,
Go ahead.
go
ahead.
Is your arch nemesis Towel Man?
No. My arch nemesis is this fucking bullshit that I'm hearing. Like, I'm trying to get to the facts, and you guys are talking about some bullshit.
What are the facts? What are the facts, Roman? I want to know. What is your version of the facts? I'm
But they
curious.
can't be from the past.
No. Seriously, let's.
The
I want
facts
to hear.
on
I want to
this
hear your actual, honest take on this. Like, what do you think?
My honest take on this is.
Do you think that they're brainwashing children in schools? Is that what you
No,
think?
no. Listen.
Okay, what's your take? Okay, go ahead.
Listen. You guys are all on here. You're having a fun goof. Like, we're playing politics. We got a camera in front of us. We think we know what we're talking about. My wife works in childcare. 5 years old. She sees these young children every day. So all these people, all you guys talking about, you know what you're talking about? That's bullshit. I hear every day what is going down. And you guys act like
Do
you
you
know
hear
what the
voices
fuck's...
in your walls? Do you hear voices in your walls by any chance?
Oh my God,
Injecting the
dude.
Let him
5-year-olds with
finish.
Okay, we gotta let him
testosterone?
finish.
Wait, Roman, what if I say yes to your question? What then?
Go ahead. Say yes to what question?
What if I say, hey, let's give 12-year-olds hormones on the school? What do you say?
In voice text.
I say that is ridiculous. I think that
Why?
we are letting. Do you remember when you were 12 years old? Do you remember that
Why?
time?
Why?
Do you-
Why?
do
Can you
you-
give me an
do you-
argument? Can you give me an argument? Right? Like instead of
Do you
appealing,
remember? Do you remember when you were 12 years old? Yes or no?
I am 12 years old.
You were a fucking idiot. You didn't know what was going on. Everything was just a new world, and everybody's just chilling, hanging out. You're 12 years old. Hold on.
Do you
I'm not
realize
done.
that 12-year-old? Do you realize that
And I was
12-year-olds?
right.
Do you realize that 12-year-olds have the capacity to kill themselves?
No.
They have the capacity
Yeah,
to
they
have
have the
depression. They have the capacity.
Bro. You guys are treating 12-year-olds like they have the mental capacity to make these
No.
decisions.
No,
That's
I'm
what you're
not.
saying.
No,
That's
I'm
what you're
not.
saying.
No, I'm not.
Whoa,
No, I'm not.
wait,
Can you
stop,
give me an argument?
stop. Dario, can you clarify what you were saying, or
Yes.
Okay.
And after, can I get in, please?
Yes.
I've got an important question.
Yes.
Sure.
Roadman.
Yeah.
My issue is that all you're doing is virtue signaling, and you
No.
don't actually have an argument. So what I'm telling you is, if I tell you yes, they should have access at school to the hormones, the only thing you can give me is, bro, 12-year-old dumb.
Yeah.
And just because you're dumb doesn't mean you have the ability to make a decision that could be ill-informed, and that's why we're having this conversation, dudes.
Which is why I
And like, I
and
don't agree
probably
with a lot
every
of these
single-
people on this panel, and I think this is a very good conversation to have.
You
And-
guys
and
are
this
out
is-
to fucking
this is-
lunch. You're out to fucking
this is-
lunch.
This
No,
is,
dude.
Listen. This is why I, and probably every other trans advocate, nobody here believes that children unilaterally should just have a snack bowl of hormones they can go to school and take, right? Everybody believes we bring in other people to make these assessments, medical professionals who are in this field studying, working with kids every single day, medical professionals who have way more experience with this than your 5-year-old wife has, okay? These people have the ability to assess the child, and those are the people who, together with the child, should make this decision.
So explain to me why the transgender the transgender community has a 40% suicide rate.
They
I don't.
Like,
What do you mean they
you.
don't?
Next.
They do.
Because
Next.
of people not accepting them, because of them being abused by their families, because people in Florida want to out them to their families against their consent. We can look at things like this and we can see that after they transition, their suicide rates go down. We can talk to trans people. Again, I asked you, do you know a trans person? Because I don't think that you
Yes,
do.
I do
Trans
know a
people
trans
will
person.
tell
I'm
you
friends.
that it's how they
I'm-
are treated.
Can I finish? I'm friends with a trans person. I am good
You have a
friends
black
with a trans
friend
person.
too? I mean, my
You
God.
stop using your trans person as a
You
weapon for
literally
your
asked-
shit
No,
arguments.
no, I'm
so
not.
don't-
No, I'm not.
Eric,
I'm
you
talking
literally
truth.
asked.
I'm
I
talking
know,
truth right
I'm
now.
being a little petty, I know.
I'm talking
I've
truth
got
right
listen.
now.
Sorry, can I get
I'm
in?
being a
I've
little
got a question. I've got a question. Important question for you, Roadman. How much of your time do you spend thinking about 12-year-olds?
You're fucking shot, dude. You know what's wrong with this panel is you guys are so off in the fucking weeds. You're not really listening to the real shit. You're not listening to the real folks.
What's the real shit,
Dude,
man?
we
I'm
listen
waiting.
to
I'm
trans
waiting for the
people.
real shit. Roadman,
They'll tell
put it
you.
on us.
The real
The real,
shit.
the real
Last-
shit
well,
is
he-
you had a parental bill of rights, and you were saying that this bill was complete. Yet,
You
from
just-
lines
you
101
just
to
don't get it.
105,
You
it
just don't get it.
specifically states
There's-
under
it's
the
not
law
that
by
people
law.
get
This is I can't.
Seems like a struck a nerve.
We're gonna throw it over to Turk, since Turk raised his hand, and then Loner afterwards.
Yeah, and like, I don't agree with a lot of the people on this panel about many of the topics that are related to what we're going on with. But I am a parent. I don't know how many other people here are parents on the panel, but like, my kids are going through this. They are going through life and they are learning about things if the school is teaching it or they're not teaching it. I would much rather have the school be able to have this sort of open space where they can talk about certain topics and not be indoctrinated into either accepting the topic or not even hearing about it, because that's not the way this world works. They're all going to learn about it. I would much rather my 8-year-old daughter come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, I have these things I'm talking about." And I would love to have those conversations. I wish more families could have that sort of opportunity. But it's like, as a conservative, I don't want my schools to be enabling that, going into what Fabian's talking about. And I would much rather there be an openness from the public service provided by the government in order so that as a family, we can start to build these relationships back up and not rely on just the government to solve the problems.
I agree. The government is
next.
causing problems here.
Loner?
Yeah, hi. Just to answer the question about the suicide thing, just in case anyone else was still stuck in fucking 2016 talking points, there is actually a study from the Children's Aid Society of Toronto that compared trans youths with supportive parents and trans youth with unsupportive parents. If they had supported parents, their attempted suicide rate was about 4%. If their parents were unsupportive, it was 57%. That's only the parents influencing that. That's
Thank you,
yeah. Second
How
thing
does
is,
what does that
I
have to
think-
do with this bill?
because someone was asking about suicide rates. Keep up. I also sent you studies about the housing problems, which you asked me for. So,
Right,
one of
and
the
you
things about
said
this-
on page
there's a quote,
28, 38,
there-
which doesn't mention anything of what you're talking
housing
I'm in the
issues.
middle of
It says housing issues. It's on page 38.
Right,
yeah,
page 38 does not state that. What it states is
the link above where I said page 38.
faced housing problems 55% on a
Yeah.
self-report survey.
Okay,
Like,
how?
this is
Okay,
this
I
is
don't.
a
I don't know if I need to
serious
explain the
issue.
entire.
My
I don't know if I
kids
need to
have
explain the
to share
entire
a
concept of
bedroom.
social
That's a
sciences to you.
housing
But yeah,
problem.
okay.
Shot. You guys are shot. You guys are fucking shot.
Why so? Yeah, okay. So I jump from what is it for trans youth with supportive parents? 0%, right?
Yeah. So, but again, what
Okay,
does
but
that
it's
have to
self-report, so
do?
it's all fake. I
Right,
know,
but
but
no, but
if you
that's
just
not
want to
about
think it's a
fake.
myth,
No,
it's okay. That's
it's a
fine.
non sequitur because the issue here is not whether or not parents are supportive. The issue is whether or not the school can do something different or against the wishes of the parent or without the knowledge of the. Because the real issue is if you have a non-supportive you have a trans kid, for example, right? We're not talking about LGB, we're just talking about the T, right? Trans kid, right? And you have a non-supportive parent, then what you have is you have gender reaffirming at the school and then gender non-reaffirming at home. You have conflict between these two things.
Scott,
This study doesn't look at that at all in any way, shape, or capacity. So this data is not relevant to the question that's being asked. I'm sorry that you had to explain social sciences to me, but
My
it seems
friend.
like you're not answering the
We're all
question.
This
sorry.
is
We're
literally
all
from an
sorry.
article about teachers affirming gender identities in schools and the conditions under which it's okay not to tell the parents. Like, I'm sorry, like it's actually in the
Listen,
source there.
sorry,
It's the fucking
I've
title of the. I haven't. Just one more thing as well. You were talking about like so you can see there that the risks of unsupportive parents are quite high. Like, is it not quite reasonable? And this is you can apply this to
This law
gays,
doesn't change
lesbians,
supportive
bisexuals
parents
as
one way or
well.
the other.
Well, I'm looking at the bit here that says like a school district may not encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in primary grade levels or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. Like,
Yes.
so they
One,
can't encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity. It's a pretty
Yeah,
hard like
this
overreach, isn't it?
pre-puberty, right? I mean, like I've already said that I don't necessarily agree with this section of the bill, right? So I'm kind of with you on that. That being said, right, that's again, that has nothing to do with supportive or non-supportive parents.
but it,
Yeah,
it
so
does though
if you are aware,
space
if you
for
are aware
children
of the impacts of having non-supportive parents, and I don't know if you prefer anecdotal experience, like because I've worked with trans youth, and yeah, like one safe space is better than none. If you are afraid that your parents won't accept you, and there can be like quite severe impacts caused by that, then yeah, but still like there is still some respite from having your gender identity affirmed elsewhere, whether it's by your teachers or
It's
people
the
outside of
assumption.
school.
That's the assumption that there's not any issues with your gender confusion would be resolved in affirming.
Sorry?
That's an assumption.
Under the assumption that affirming someone's gender
And-
identity is helpful to them.
Yes, that is the assumption. The
Okay.
assumption is that all the individuals involved, all parties involved, that the best course of action is always to affirm their gender identity.
But I don't suppose like the myriad of data that would show that affirming gender identity is like one of the most helpful things,
Let
the
me ask
most
a
helpful
question.
thing you can
Let
do
me
for
ask
a
a question.
child with those issues.
Well, no, Rope.
I don't suppose any of that would sway you, would
Just wait a
it?
bit.
The fact that
Is
you're
there another
going
question
against
about children?
like all the data, like
I have
all
a
of it.
question.
Not
I
going
have a
against
question.
all of the
Okay,
data.
right.
Your data has been shown to be irrelevant in every case, and then you
How
just
is
try
it
to
sh-
flip it
How?
and pretend like it isn't.
How
What
is
part
it
of it is irrelevant?
What do I need to repeat myself for like the 10th fucking time?
You could try
Again,
saying it better.
how supportive or non-supportive parents isn't changed in what we're regarding and discussing with this bill. This doesn't
a question.
change whether or not parents are supportive. It has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I
but if
know it
parents
doesn't
are
change
not-
whether or not parents are supportive, but if you have reason to believe that the parents won't be supportive, and you have reason to believe that there are impacts that would negatively affect the child, if that were the case, then wouldn't that be a good reason to hesitate before telling the parents?
I have a question.
I feel like we can shortcut all of this if Fabian just tells us specifically what is it with the bill that you believe you want to achieve, like what part of the bill, instead of because it seems everybody's asking you things and you're just saying I
Parental
don't care
involvement
about that or that's a
process and not instead of having counties in Florida where individuals can hide all of this information and not
Sure.
tell parents what is occurring. It is not the duty of the state to begin to reaffirm genders or engage in practices without the behest of the parents involved.
sure.
It's funny,
So
you dismissed this research as self-reported, by the way. One of the
Oh.
factors there was attempted suicide. So I don't know how well you can like dismiss attempted suicide
50-page bill,
stats
what I read so
as
far,
self-reported.
support.
So I'm just wondering, like,
Isn't
if you're aware that attempted suicide rates are far more likely for kids who don't get supported by their parents for being trans, should the schools still be obligated, even if they
in
are aware
what
of that risk?
fucking world does this bill address whether or not parents are supportive of the children?
It doesn't.
Because
It provides a secondary space if their parents are not supportive and you want to take that away is by supporting this bill.
It's not what I'm advocating for.
But that is what would happen if this bill passed.
No, it is not.
Yes, it
Question.
is. They can't talk about it. They have to out the children.
Quick question.
So-
Quick question. Quick question. Quick question.
I've got a better question.
Okay. You know what? Dario's actually been waiting the longest. Did you already say your thing you wanted to, Dario?
Actually, I had a. It's kind of a tangential point to Fabian, but I'm just gonna put it out there real quick. Okay.
Then Turk,
So
then
so.
Rob.
Sure. So Fabian, like there are some, I believe there are some questions that we need answered because I feel like we're kind of talking past each other, and I feel like that's maybe what's frustrating you. So I think the issue is that I need to get a feel, and maybe everybody here needs to get a feel for like where you stand philosophically in terms of like which kind of rights should be afforded the children, right? Because supposedly, and maybe you don't agree with this, right, that the state or whoever, like there should be a body which takes the child away or removes some rights from the parents in very extreme circumstances, like for example child abuse or like child sexual assault by the parents, like stuff like that, right? So presumably you would give some rights to some government bodies, right? And I think what the people on the panel are saying that generally we would err on the side of the child in cases like gender affirming care or like LGBT issues, because there is this same danger of children either harming themselves or committing suicide, and we believe that the danger is so great that we should err on the side of the child rather than err on the side of the
This
parent.
is not erring on the side of the child. A child is a self-owner by my philosophy. They own themselves. They have a right to their. That does
By the
not
way,
mean-
Fabian, you've been cutting in and out like for the last.
Sorry, let
20
me move
minutes.
up.
Thank you.
Some
So
gay
a child is a self-owner, right? But they do not have the ability to consent, right? Children do not have the ability to consent to certain. So it falls on the parents to be guardians of the children's rights or custodians of the children's rights. The state, I'm against the state in general. So when asking erring on the side of the state, I'm always going to be against erring on the side of the state because the state has just as much ability to harm children as do parents.
Sure, but the issue is here that so I agree with the first thing that you said, right? I agree that children own themselves, right? But I don't understand how you can say that children own themselves and then say that children don't have the right or the ability to consent, right? And I know, like when we talk about children's consent, it's a very spicy topic, right? But we do believe that the children have the ability to consent to some things regarding themselves, right? Like we have to believe children when it is things that have with their own self-experience to do, right? Because how else are we gonna know about their own self-experience, right? If a child comes to you and says, I tried to commit suicide or whatever, we have to believe them because they are the only people who would know about these things, right? So we have to trust the children to some degree, but obviously we need some arbiters of what is the best for the child, right? There needs to be some kind of arbiter. And I think what I'm saying
Ultimate
is
arbiter is the parent.
yes,
Not
and
the
that's
state.
and that's I think the big issue, right? Because what do you do if the parents are wrong, right? If we can identify that the parents are abusing the child, what can we do in your
There's
view?
already a ton of
And-
services for that. Number one,
Well,
there's and
can I
CPS
can,
exists.
Okay. Turk.
so I want to butt in and stack onto this because if going back to Biggs's post about the 39.201, section 1 part B or A, whatever, child abuse, abandonment, or neglect by a parent or caregiver, which includes but is not blah blah blah. Y'all can read it yourselves. This fits the role of a mandatory person that reports. So if a kid comes to school and tells the counselor, teacher, whatever, that they committed this sort of action, would this not fit into that particular role where then the teacher or whoever was told needs to report this to the proper authorities?
Yes, it fits into mandated reporters.
So so this is now a separate topic of what the Florida bill that we're actually talking about. This is taken care of, or could be taken care of.
I think the question as well is that like a parent might not be abusive to a child if they're, but until they find out that their child is gay or trans.
So is it
parent might be fine
abusive
with
to
their
not
child.
take care of your children and listen to what they have to say?
Well, I would say it is abuse. It is abuse in like 99.9% of cases if a parent does not help their child figure out stuff like their gender, right? If they're explicitly like shutting down a child when the child has serious like questions or propositions about things to do with their own gender, right? Or like sexuality, even, right?
This is why I wish we
It
had
goes
Bastiat.
farther than that.
Now
This
I
bill
wish.
doesn't just say the abuse occurs. It says if a prudent person suspects that abuse may occur from disclosing this information. So if a child goes to a teacher and says, "Look, I have evangelical, like super hardcore Christian parents that have said horrible things about gays before, and like I am finding my sexual orientation to be in such a way that I feel like I feel scared to tell my parents." That fits this definition.
Yeah, like we can break bread. We can break bread on. I already told like we can break bread on that, right? I don't necessarily disagree with the most charitable reading we can do of the bill, right? Or like some parts of the bill, right? Like as you say, like if we're like, but my issue is if I have to for me to support this bill, if I have to go like, well, I don't agree with 90% of the bill, but there's 10% of the bill where if I'm super charitable, I agree. How can I, in good conscience, support the bill?
It's the exact opposite. You agree with 90% of the bill. The portion of the bill that you don't agree with is the same portion of the bill that I don't agree with, which is not teaching sexual orientation and gender-based programming.
Which is a pretty big thing to be
I feel like
into a bill.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty big
life changing for some children.
Can I ask a basic question?
It is Robe than Merrick, so we're gonna go Robe.
Okay, so my question is, you see me, right? You see this background. You see me as a man, right? Do you accept me as a man? Yes.
Are you a man?
Do you accept me as a man? Yes or no?
Do you identify as a man?
Do you
I
identify
identify as a man. I'm a man.
Well,
okay.
yeah, then I do. Yeah.
Okay, then
Well,
yeah.
do you
Okay.
identify
Okay.
as Robe?
Hold on, stop. So at 5 years old, I was playing with Polly Pockets.
Wait,
I was playing.
wait. That sounds like the history.
It's in the past.
Let me
the
finish.
past.
Let me
Yeah,
finish.
all
let
you
me
want to talk
finish.
about is the
Or
past.
did you have
Let me
Discord
finish.
then? Did you
Let
have
me
Discord?
finish.
All right,
Let me
Robe,
finish.
continue.
Let me finish. So I'm 5 years old, right? I'm the manliest man you ever seen, right?
Did they have Discord back then?
Stop. At 5 years old, I'm playing with Polly Pockets, right? I'm playing with Barbies. I'm stroking their hair. It's so nice. I'm having a good time. Do you want to push me towards the female? The you know what I mean? Like, do you want to push me towards that?
We're
No.
playing with Polly Pockets. No.
Kings and men can play with Barbies. That's what I think.
Okay. But where do you decide what is right? Where do you decide like, oh, we have to push them towards the female gender or the male gender? You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's not
Firstly,
we have
never-
to push
we
them,
never
that's not
push
how it
anyone.
works. Yeah,
Never
you don't
push
push
them.
children. Children talk about how they feel about themselves, and it's typically not at 5 years old. We see older children, 10, 11, 12, coming to you and being like, I am a girl, I've always been a girl, I know I'm a girl, and that's when you take them to a licensed therapist.
Okay, but there are people who are taking 5-year-olds who are saying, I'm a princess, and they're pushing them towards that female mentality. Do you not
Are
agree?
they in the room with us right now?
I'm not saying they're in the room with us right now,
I
but
don't
that's
care.
happening.
Like,
Do you
I don't care.
do you
I
not
don't
agree
care about
that's
these
happening?
imaginary dipshit
It
stories.
is
that you read on
imaginary.
fucking
It's not
No,
websites.
imaginary. It's
no.
happening.
It is happening.
Where?
I-
Where'd you hear about
It's
this?
happening. What are you talking
Hold on.
about?
Wait. Okay,
You think
calm down.
5-year-olds are being
They're
taught
talking
up?
to you and only you.
I can affirm
Hey!
the anecdote.
That,
I'll bet you can.
the number one rule is when I'm talking, no one else is talking. So I'm gonna throw it over to quickly affirm the anecdote because Merrick has been waiting for a while, and I'm a feminist, so Merrick is gonna be talk soon. Okay, so Turk.
So I have two 5 to 6 year old boys that have both in the past week dressed up as Disney princesses and have come up to me and say, Dad, I am a princess. And you know what I do? I don't bash them on the head, say that, hey, you guys are doing things wrong. It's like, all right, guys, keep on playing. At the time when it becomes socially acceptable to have the conversations, which is actually part of the bill, is what we're talking about here, dude. Come on, move on.
This isn't. There's nothing. The bill isn't. Wait,
Loner.
that had nothing to do with the idea of pushing kids to change their gender. Anyway,
Okay.
it's fine.
Merrick.
Okay, so I guess I wanted to talk to I wanted to kind of question FL Scott directly, because so you keep I apologize, I was a little frustrated with you earlier, but you keep raising this idea of children cannot consent. So I guess what I wanted to kind of lay out is that teachers are not, this is not a bill that is changing that teachers can currently transition kids, right? This is a bill that takes away teachers and counselors' ability to have discussions about gender identity and sexual orientation, and that it also puts the onus on teachers and counselors to out children. So I guess for me, it seems pretty obvious and evident that when we know that there's a bunch of children who don't feel safe at home, that the smart, reasonable, and ethical thing to do is to create spaces at school where they can feel safe. So when you say that children can't consent, I guess I just want to know, what is it that you think children can't consent to in terms of us wanting to preserve these safe spaces for them?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily, I would never call it, because
You're cutting out.
You're cutting out again.
no, I would never call it a safe space, because I feel like that's an absurd assumption. Space is actually safe. Hold on, let me fix my mic real quick. Next one, talk and do the gain manually.
And cap infrastructure. We're gonna. Okay, so
That's why that shit never works out.
Loner, you trying
I
to
don't-
say
I
something
can't-
earlier?
Oh.
Okay.
Loner's reading.
Maybe I could just. I
Go,
think
Dario.
I think there's a useful analogy here, and obviously this is not the same. This is an analogy, right? But we already practice these things in so many different ways. So like, for example, when kids are prescribed ADHD medication, right? Like they get some kind of pill that's gonna help them with a certain state of mind that they have, right? Like these kinds of things do have some amount of the children's consent within them, right? Obviously, there's not only the child's consent, right? They talk to a doctor, they figure out, hey, do I actually need this medication, whatever. Their parents might be the first to diagnose it for their kids. They might be, hey, my kid is having these issues, whatever, and they talk to the kid, and the kid is within this entire process, like a part of the process, and with the child's consent as well, they're given medication which might help them better be themselves, right? And I think that like it's a useful analogy to just realize that children consent to all kinds of things, and we have to take their consent and their autonomy. Autonomy into consideration. And obviously, like nobody, and just to be clear, like nobody's saying children can consent to sex and stuff like that, like these kind necessarily, right? Like with older, whatever.
Roadman might have that perspective. He was talking a lot about 12-year-olds earlier, so maybe we want to check.
But so this bill doesn't have anything to do with medication, though. So really, what we're talking about is eliminating the ability to have conversations that realistically should be safe between teachers and students.
I think to be more specific is the bill prevents the encouragement of actions going towards that. You can still have the conversation and have open dialogue, yet not encouraging a specific action.
Sure,
the
but
exact wording is a school district may not encourage classroom discussion. Yeah, it's explicitly saying discussion.
Well, and I think that that's such vague wording that because it allows parents to issue lawsuits against school districts, they can argue that anything was encouragement. And if you have the right conservative judge, you have a good conservative attorney, you can make cases for this out of things that are actually fairly
Or your local community can start setting up guidelines that are like, guys, this is what encouragement means. Don't do it.
We can do
Listen, I can break bread with all my conservative friends on the platform, right? Like if teachers are going to kids and saying, hey, do you think you might be a girl? Hey, do you want to be a girl?
That literally happens all the time.
Listen,
it doesn't happen.
Yes, it does.
Let me finish. If this happens, and we can say that this happens, right? This is a bad thing. I do not want teachers to tell kids they are trans, right? I think that's bad. I think this should come from the children themselves, right? If the children
No.
are expressing these issues, they should talk to medical professionals which have the children's best in mind, right? They want the best for the children, and
So you
they
like this
together.
bill?
Why do you think that the state owns children? That the
I
state
don't.
has rights
The
over
children,
parents?
the children
But
own
that's
themselves.
being
You're gonna
suggested here.
you're gonna let a 7-year-old decide what they want to be as
No.
gender? Is that what you
No.
want?
Are you gonna let a 3-year-old decide what kind of? No, dude, come on.
What are you talking about then? What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm gonna drive around my neighborhood giving hormones to 10-year-olds. No, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about creating spaces where children can open up to their teachers and counselors without fear of being outed to their parents against their will. We're not talking about hormones and medication.
At what age? At what age?
Any age, you should be able to talk to your counselor and your teacher.
5 years
without
old?
fear.
5 years old?
If you want
Yes.
to tell your counselor something at 5 and you don't want your parents to know, fine. I don't know. We're not talking about this.
So if I'm playing with Polly Pockets and I want to be a princess, I should be just shoved along to be a girl, right? That's what you're saying.
No, that's not
Yes.
what
Very
we're
different
talking
No,
thing.
you should
about.
be
That's a completely
force
different thing.
feminized, Roman. You
No
should
one
be
is
No.
force
talking about
feminized.
forced feminization. This does
Well,
not happen.
I am.
So what the fuck
I
are you
am.
talking about?
So-
So what the fuck are you talking about?
So if an
Yeah.
elementary school
It's not
teacher
about
was
forcing.
teaching,
It's about a kid coming to you and saying like, "Oh, like I want to change my like name or my
You,
pronouns."
th-
like,
you think
okay,
a kid?
fine.
You think a kid has this like complex fucking thought process in his head?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't understand why you're all
Yes,
pretending
it's
like
not
this
that
isn't
complex.
happening.
Gender
Why are
identity
you
is not
lying?
complex.
Guys
Like,
are
you
out
can-
of your
you
mind.
Kids will talk
guys
about
are
knowing they
out-
were trans from
You're
a young
out
age.
of your fucking minds.
We're not.
No,
We've just
Rope,
listened
man.
to trans
Okay.
people. They will tell you these things about their own life experiences.
I think
Why are we lying?
We're
About
not
what?
lying. Do you think
What are
all
we lying
trans
about?
people are lying?
No, I don't think all trans people are lying, but I think when you talk about a 5-year-old talking about I want to be a
You're
princess,
talking about a 5-year-old. No one here is talking about 5-year-olds. When we're concerned about this, we're mostly
That's a
concerned from the ages of 10,
kindergarten
11, and
age
12.
okay,
kid.
but I just asked you.
No.
I just asked you as a 5-year-old. You said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, let's do
So,
it."
so Merrick, to
Because I
bring
don't.
it
You
back.
didn't even put out a
No, no, no.
specific.
So Merrick, to
Oh
bring
my
it back to the
God,
actual
dude.
conversation, the Florida bill addresses what, kindergarten through 5, K through 5.
It does, yeah.
Okay, and that's why he keeps bringing up kindergarten, even though
Sure.
he's not intending for that to be the part of the conversation. I have a
guess if-
5-year-old. If he was to go to a counselor and say, I was playing with Polly Pocket today, I don't expect my counselor to say, you should keep playing with Polly Pocket kids. My counselor should say, oh, what other toys are you playing with? And keep
I'm
the
sure that
conversation going.
happens,
Not
though.
advocating for a certain type of thing, but having open discussions. That's the nuance of what this argument is.
Sure,
Has
but
anyone else
confusing
here ever
children.
actually worked with like educating children? It sounds like
You're
because-
confusing children. That's
Hey,
what you're
hang
doing.
on, Roadman, please don't, please. Like, has anyone else here actually like worked like with education and children?
I raise kids, dude.
Okay, but like,
Not the
was it,
same
like
thing.
have you ever had to like a court like go with guidelines and things like that? So like
Yes.
teachers' guidelines. Yeah. Okay. So like we do it here, and we're pretty progressive when it comes to trans kids. Like we've had like I don't know, like 10, 11-year-olds saying they want to change their name and pronouns. And yeah, well, we just say, okay, yeah, if that's what you want. Why the fuck not? Like we didn't say it that way, but like that's and it's fine. They're happy. It doesn't like it's like there's really no difference. I feel like when you say that, oh, a kid comes to you playing with Polly Pockets and you say, you know what, you might be transgender. Can you say transgender for me? This doesn't happen. We respond to what they tell us.
Yes, it does.
And no, it
Why are
doesn't.
you lying? Like
Where-
you
where
can
does it
literally,
happen?
like you can literally. I'm not saying it's happening all the time. I'm not saying that I have any proof of a percentage of that it's happening. But we do know for a fact that there are
Scott.
trans activists and LGBT activists
Yep.
that engage in schools and brag about it online all the
Yep.
time.
Oh, wait,
taking first graders and second graders.
Bragging
dude,
about it. Okay, you're already using animated language. Coming here and saying we exist, we're trans, we're different genders, we were born at birth. Gay people can do this with kids as well. Straight people brag about their sexuality and their romances and their marriages and things like
No.
that long before kids are mature enough to do that
that's
shit.
a,
So
that's a
it's
beautiful
fucking
fucking
normal.
pivot. But what I'm saying is that you're a fucking liar when
Yep.
saying that
What?
this isn't occurring, when we know everyone with any common fucking sense that's ever hung out on libs of TikTok for
Yep.
one fucking day has seen this shit happening
so we're going with
all
libs
the
of
fucking
TikTok.
time.
These,
It's hilarious.
We should bring
probably
it
Wait,
up.
hilarious.
wait. There's not a lot of TikToks on that Libs TikTok Twitter account, is there? feel like
Are
we
you
should have
I
more
like that
TikToks.
Loner Box is bringing studies, data. You know, Fabian said he was going to educate us,
He
all, and
brought
now
me
he's
a
quoting libs of
7-page
bringing
paper, and I
libs of
asked him
TikTok.
questions about it, and
You're the one
then
that
to
bro.
make the claim
We
that
were
it's
talking
completely
about the
different
role
than
of-
what the fuck he was talking about. So I can bring up studies too. We can talk about Williams Institute
Yep.
survey and how the data is fucking bullshit because
Yep.
they intentionally use fucking it's funded by the very same programs that are begging for funding in these this
How do you
idea of
decide
40% homeless of youth is a bullshit number. And
How
that's
do
what
you-
we're talking about because that was the first thing that you referenced immediately.
How
And
do you
then
decide which research is valid and which isn't?
You fucking what? You stupid fucking libs want to sexualize children at 5 years old. You want to figure out their sexuality.
liars.
We're over it, dude. We're fucking over it, dude. Let the
Projection,
kids be kids,
projection.
dude. It's over it. I'm fucking
Roadman,
over it.
Roadman,
Bro, it's
Roadman,
The only one
projection.
who
Roadman,
the only one who
Roadman.
keeps talking
Fuck
about
you.
5-year-olds. The only one who
Fuck
keeps
you.
talking about
Okay,
5-year-olds
okay.
is you, Roadman.
Roadman.
You're not
Okay,
Goku,
stop,
buddy.
stop,
You're
stop.
not
We're
Goku,
stopping.
You're nobody.
We're okay.
I was waiting for it.
Okay.
Roadman.
We've been going on this topic a lot longer than I thought this topic would produce content for. We're gonna. Is there anybody else that has anything left to say on this topic, really, that of value?
I've
I
got
have-
an
I have
important
one thing of
statement.
value to
Something
say.
new. I've got something
Chud,
new.
please tell me it's an actually important statement, or are you just about to meme?
It's sort of important.
Okay, so we're gonna throw
It's-
the
it's-
loaner box. We're gonna throw the loaner box.
Yeah, two things. First of all, I like how we were talking about the role of educators, and then Fabian jumped on to talk about libs on TikTok. That was funny. Roadman,
Nice pivot.
honestly, if a child questioning their gender identity and wanted to change their name and pronouns makes you think about sexualization, you are self-reporting, my friend.
No, fuck you, buddy.
Okay,
What?
next is gonna be.
Oh, you wanna
Dario.
fuck kids?
With
Oh, you
children,
wanna
it's
fuck
not
kids?
being involved in the conversation.
I have a like this is a very simple line of questioning for Fabian.
Steal my
and-
swag. Steal my swag.
Deny it.
Nice sunglasses. Nice sunglasses. Go ahead.
What? Dario.
Sure.
Yeah, he
So I'm just gonna quickly go on this, and I'll assume your answers. If you disagree, you can tell me, right? So first off, we have to recognize, okay, is being trans a real thing, right? And I would think you would say yes, right? Like people can be trans. There are trans people in the world, right? And the question is then, well, can children be trans, right? And okay, let me put you a question, right? So let's say we live in a hypothetical world where we have a magic machine which can 100% identify if somebody is trans, right? Down to, let's say, 12-year-old, right? A 12-year-old can get a machine on their head and it says, oh, they are actually trans 100%, right? Should the school then facilitate their transition if the child is saying, hey, I'm trans, we can confirm, yes, they are trans with 100% certainty? Should the school help them transition if that is what they want? I would say yes. Right, even if the parents say no, I would say yes.
In science fiction fantasy hypothetical that doesn't engage with what we know currently.
But would you say yes? Because this is important.
Well, I just said I'm not going to engage with hypotheticals based off of science fiction
But the issue is I don't know where the
Why it's a
disagreement is.
hypothetical?
I don't know. So I don't know where our disagreement lies because it's obviously we have a disagreement. So I'm trying to figure out where is the disagreement. Is it more fundamental or is it more surface level? Right? Is it about can we tell if a child is trans? Is it like what kind of certainty do we need? Like what kind of dangers? Like what is it practical or is it philosophical? Right? That's where the hypothetical is addressing. Because if it is philosophical, you would say, no, you don't believe that child should transition, even if we 100% could say that they are trans, and then we would have to go a totally different direction, right? But if you did say yes,
I've made my position clear on the way that I feel about who is the appropriate custodian of children's rights and whether or not children can consent. I have made all of those things clear. If you can't garner from that and you need a science fiction fantasy metaphor as a means of me being able to engage in a future hypothetical world that may or may not exist, I can't go there because I would have to know so much about what is going on in that world and what that world looks like.
so
That-
all
that
I
kind of
want to say is I think that's a very disappointing answer, but that's fair.
But it answers your third question.
Okay, let's go to the list. Next is Merrick. Or never mind. Okay, next is Turk.
Man, I'm next on the list. All I can say is that as a parent, I really want this could be my closing statement too. I really wish, and I kind of agree with Merrick, it's like I wish there was an open area for kids to have these kind of conversations. I wish we would allocate more funds towards counselors, having more counselors, and being able to help the mental state of these kids that don't have access to all these sort of things. But we can also do that without actually pushing agendas, which is what parts of the Florida bill actually account for. And I really think that would be a good thing for society.
Okay, I guess we'll wrap up then. We're gonna do closing statements.
And that was mine.
We're gonna throw it over to Robe Man.
Okay, so I just want to say, fuck the liberals on Twitch. This shit is goofy as fuck. The conservatives are taking over. 2022 is going to be a bad day for you guys. 2024 is going to be even a worse day for you guys. I'm coming in hot. Fuck you guys. You could suck my dick. Look at these sunglasses. These shits are fire as fuck. Hey, get them in here. Get them in here. Get them in here. Get them in here. I got buddies for days, baby. I know what I'm doing. You guys are fucking shot. We're doing this big time. Fuck you. Fuck chat.
Is the 5-year-old wife coming now?
Wait, but isn't 2022 a year, not a day?
Let's go. Let's go. We got buddies in here, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We're doing big time here. It's Road Man, baby. Man party, baby. Let's suck my dick, baby. I have a train. Conservatives are coming 2024. Suck my dick. Follow me. TwitchTV.com, baby. Let's go. It's a movement. What are you doing? It's all day, baby. Let's go. The money. The funds, let's go. COVID test, COVID's over. Fuck COVID. Let's go. Fuck conservatives. Yes.
Wonderful.
Go ahead. I yield my time.
I throw it over to Merrick.
How many blue moons have you had tonight, man? She's got nice legs.
Let's go.
Merrick. You're muted.
This has been an absolute shit show. Yeah, I guess my final statement on this is I guess I feel like a lot of really bad arguments like, oh, you want the state to own children and you want to inject 5-year-olds with like super testosterone or whatever were made, and that was really silly. The reason why I object to this bill is, again, because I would like kids to have spaces where they feel that they can safely talk about their gender identity, about their sexual orientation. I believe children should be educated. The current science says that gender identity and sex are different. Children have a right to education. They are not the property of their parents. And we can see that when they are not provided with safe, supportive spaces, especially for trans youth, the suicide rates do go up and we see very bad outcomes. I don't think any good outcomes come from this law, and that's why I oppose it. And Rogue Man, it's been thoroughly entertaining having you on this panel. And these are like final outros for the whole panel, right?
I think I'm gonna make do that, but we might extend it for the people who wanted to do the Hassan thing, so everybody who doesn't want to do that can leave.
Okay. So I guess for everyone who's leaving, you can find me at Merrick DeVille. That's my Instagram. I have a friend who is called Punished Mother on Twitter. You can find her there, and then Merrick DeVille on YouTube and Twitch. And I will probably stick around if you have a Hassan thing.
Okay, throwing over to Loner.
Yeah, this bill is dumb as fuck. I don't know like what exactly you think that's in it that would justify a school discouraging discussions about sexual orientation and gender identity for kids. It's, I don't know, maybe you're scared, but I think kids deserve to know about these things because they can start to feel things about themselves at quite a young age, and it's good to understand, what the options are for them. I personally live in one of the most trans-positive education systems in the world. I've worked with plenty of trans youths. They're pretty cool, they get by. They tend to get their identities affirmed. No one is sexualizing them. I feel like that thought is only reserved for Rope Man.
Fabian.
Yeah, so I'm not going to stick around for the Hassan stuff. So Fabian Liberty is the channel. My name is Scott. We're a duo anarcho-capitalist stream. Come check us out. Final thoughts on the bill. Again, the idea here is to protect parental rights. That's what this really is about. And what you've seen is a lot of shifting and saying, oh, well, these people need their safe spaces, safe from their parents, even though this is already addressed. And the idea is so that the state can be the guardian of talking about your child's gender expression and your child's sexual orientation, and so that they can have control over those things. And obviously, as someone that is against the state, I'm absolutely against this. Now, of course, we had some debates that were kind of fun about the research. Someone gave me a 70-page paper as a means of proving the idea that that their point was correct, even though it doesn't support the position that they were talking about in the first place, which I was attacking. And on top of that, even the position that they attempted to pivot to clearly showed that it had nothing to do with what the bill or what we're talking about. In terms of teaching young children in primary school about sexual orientation and gender, I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with this bill. I feel like it's a little too harsh in that regard. At the same time, I do respect the idea that Florida Republicans may feel it is necessary that parents have that involvement in their children, and that it's not the role of teachers and educators to be doing that towards elementary students. It's not my personal favorite part, but overall, this is a great bill to stop the state from having such a heavy influence in children's lives, and instead reassert those rights to parents, as well as protect children and give them safe spaces in the event that they report to someone and there's an issue that could lead to abuse or neglect or abandonment, as is stated in the bill.
Dario?
Sure. I think this, for me and the disagreements on the panel, I think this comes very much down to philosophy for me. And I think my opposition to the bill builds from my philosophical views about children in general. I believe children have autonomy. They own themselves, as we framed on the panel. And everything we legislate about children in society should be with their best outcomes in mind. I believe they are the number one stakeholders of their lives, and we should respect that. We need some, and then given that, we need some kind of body, be it state, community, or otherwise, which mediates issues between the children and their caretakers, be they parents, be they school, be they community, right? This is obvious when it comes to cases of abuse. We have third parties which come in with the children's best outcomes in mind and removes the child from their caretakers. But I'm arguing something very similar. While a very charitable reading of some parts of the bill, I would see some agreement, and I've mentioned, right, I'm open to, I'm not necessarily against any kind of legislation, but I do think that I don't like this bill because of the things that I mentioned on the panel. I think it's too broad. I think it comes into some stuff that I definitely disagree with. And I believe, again, the prime disagreement about the bill is that I believe we should always err on the side of the child. Right, the child is always the number one stakeholder, and we need some kind of mediation. But I don't think this bill is it.
Okay, next is going to be Chud Logic.
Yeah, actually, I'd quite like to just respond to the comments that Roadman made. I see that he's got the fellas round for a Friday night fucking suck sesh from the looks of it. More power to you. Nothing against gay people doing that sort of thing. So crack on with that. I'm having a look at your figures on Solynome. 3 average viewers over the last month. So yeah, not particularly worried about your so-called meteoric rise to success. I look forward to you being a forgotten side character in the Twitch politics meta in a couple of months' time. I do have one recommendation for you, though. In order to more accurately represent your intellectual ability, I would recommend you change your name from Roadman to Retard Man. And that's it.
Banned.
Jesus Christ.
Now technically that's a violation of attacking someone's.
Nah, get the fuck out of here. That shit was hilarious.
Unless
In Roblox.
if he identifies as mentally disabled. So I have
Roblox.
to ask.
His character.
Hold
Rob,
Roblox.
do you identify as mentally
I
disabled?
identify as a fuck you Twitch politics. I'm taking over. This shit is real life, baby. You guys are fucking shot. We're taking over this shit, dog. You guys are all a bunch of fucking nerds talking about, oh my god, 1976, Abraham Lincoln, back in the day, history, bullshit. We're going 2022, baby. NFTs, Bitcoin, we're taking over, baby. These sunglasses are real. Fuck you, suck my dick. Follow me, twitch.tv/
For you. You got the voice that's for you. Don't worry about that.
Wait, is this your charm hole?
Let's
Is he-
go. Let's
My
Is he
man
go.
trying-
really
now,
said
baby.
NFTs.
Let's
Okay.
go. Let's
Roadman,
go!
are you gonna stay for the Hassan
I
thing?
rest my case. I rest my case.
Robe, you muted yourself.
I'm gonna mute it because I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. Go.
Okay,
He's
well, you
gotta get
didn't
to
you
the
didn't answer my
fucking
question.
sausage.
Okay then. We throw to Biggs then.
Yeah, so I'm kind of torn on this a little bit because I do agree with a lot of what Scott says. I think as a parent myself, like I want to be involved in my children's lives and what's being taught at schools, and especially when it comes to like social issues like gender identity and things like that. But as far as like this actual bill itself that we're talking about, um, I Scott had linked to me some stuff, but what the law is already on the books is that parents have the right to any kind of medical or anything like that. Where things become hairy here is like, how do we decide when a student may be or a child may be endangered? And that's very murky waters. Like, I mean, I feel really bad for like the schools and the people that have to like make these type of decisions because it's tough. Like my wife is also in education. She's a special education teacher, so like I understand these type of things. She has a lot of issues that she comes to me about with what she should do, how she should react, things like that. So it's very difficult situations. But overall, I think this actual bill is just a virtue signal of what the Republicans want to do. They want to push their agenda. They want to drum up support. They want to drum up for the midterms and all that stuff. I know DeSantis has an election coming up soon as well for a governorship. I think he may. I think honestly, I think he's going to probably just stay governor and Trump's going to run as president. But again, I think this bill is just more, propaganda for the Republican side. Same as what the Democrats do. Same as what they did in Virginia with the CRT stuff. I think a lot of this. I think we all agree that we don't want teachers, putting ideologies into kids' heads, whether it's trans or LGBT, whether it's religion, whatever it might be. Like we don't want teachers putting ideologies. We want them to educate our kids, math, science, reading, those type of things, right? So I think that we can all agree on that. I want to thank you, Dylan, for having me on. All these people on this panel are amazing. Dylan's amazing. Everybody give all these people follows, subs. You guys are all amazing. Thank you so much, Dylan, for having me.
That is true. Follows and subs would be appreciated. It does take a lot of effort to put the show together. So who in here actually cares about the Hassan thing and would want to engage in that? 1, 2. Wait. Fabian?
Yeah, sure.
Oh no,
I'll talk
Fabian's
about
it.
peacing
Peace
out.
sign.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Y'all have a
So-
good one.
So
How long,
Biggs,
Dylan?
Merrick, Robe,
Good job,
how
Fabian.
long? Probably like 40 minutes max. Like that's shorter than a usual topic. I don't know.
I think I'm gonna dip then. But thanks for having me on. It was really
Okay.
nice. And see everybody.
See you later.
Bye, Dario.
Okay. Now. Oh, we lost another one. Okay. So these are the people who actually care about the Hassan thing right here. Okay. So,
I mean,
why?
sorry to interrupt.
Why should I care?
Sorry to interrupt, mate.
Can I interrupt you first? Can I interrupt
Oh,
you? Can
yeah,
you bring
sure.
your hat back to like a normal size?
Okay, sorry.
Please.
Yeah, it's a bit absurd. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
please,
apologies. It was
please.
okay.
This is a
I
respectable
won't take it
panel.
off because yeah, exactly. There we go. Right. So listen, let me. Okay, I need to. This is actually a serious thing. Okay, so I need to just. There we go.
See, we got to
Okay.
reset. The panel was the thing.
We
Now
gotta
we're into
reset,
serious
yeah.
business.
Now we're in off Hippy Dippy hours. This is the post Hippy Dippy podcast, okay?
There we go.
Okay, look, if I could just set this up a little bit, because I feel like this is something that is quite important to me. Okay, so look, here's the thing. Okay, Hassan, I'm not someone that likes to cancel people. I don't really care about like if you say something wrong, as long as you kind of say, hey, that was a bit of a shitty thing for me to say. That's fine. But like Hassan recently had this kind of unhinged tirade at someone in his chat who happens to be a trans person in regards to basically the Christian Walker debate or something like that, right? So basically, when it came to the Christian Walker conversation, he did a really poor showing with the trans debate stuff, and he was like very kind of aggressively attacking this trans person in his chat who offered some mild critique of what he was doing, what he was saying to Christian Walker, and he kind of flew off the chain and said something along the lines of like, I hope your life continues to be as bad as it is now, or something like that. So I've got a clip that I can share with you if this is something you can just
Sure,
watch.
send
maybe
it to me and we can just play it on stream quick, okay?
Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah, and my big thing with this discourse, I don't follow a lot of these circles because I've got other and more important things for myself to do. But I'm really interested in this because this guy's got an entirely huge platform, right? He has thousands upon thousands of people that are watching his channel. He's verbally attacking a person that's watching his channel, and this is somehow okay. But if I was to do the same thing to the other end of the aisle on my particular channel, I'd get reported and I'd get banned.
Okay,
That's where
one
I'm
second.
coming
I
in
gotta
from
play it
this
on stream,
conversation.
okay? So I'm gonna mute you guys, and I'm just gonna play it on stream so everybody has background, okay?
My issue as a trans person is the fact that you, a guy that isn't super well versed on trans shit, brought on a known transphobe knowing he might bring up transphobic shit. You aren't exactly a Vosh at trans debates. I hope that the rest of your life is as horrible as it is every single day, okay? There you go. Suck my dick. I despise you. I despise you more than anything else on the planet. You are fucking cancer, okay? You are cancer in this community, and you're cancer in every community. Suck my dick.
Okay, played it.
I don't think you would get banned for doing what he did. It's not a bannable offense to be a dickhead to someone in chat. He didn't attack the chatter for their identity, as far as I know, did he?
I don't think so.
But yeah,
no.
you can definitely say it's shitty behavior.
Okay, if
but, like, I
somebody
wouldn't worry
earlier
about
in my chat was like, Dylan, that was abuse. That was it impolite? Yeah. Was it bad thing to do? I guess. Yeah, maybe. It wasn't abuse. I want to just push back on that idea. I'm engaging now. This is no longer
listen,
a panel.
I was being a bit spicy earlier when I said abuse, but I think,
Yeah.
the context of that and the fact he's saying to a trans person, like, what do people think the context of that is, right? Like, I hope your life continues to be as miserable as it is.
I mean, I don't think he meant it that way. I have no reason to believe he meant it that way. There's
Okay,
a lot of
interesting.
other things he could be meaning by that.
But,
like
but put the shoe on the other foot.
If I look, when I watched that, I actually have seen that moment before, and I didn't know this is what we were talking about. When I saw this moment, what I interpret that as, it was like you're just some like chatter neat, right? And you're miserable and you're complaining about me and being bitter on the internet, and I hope you're as miserable as every other. That's how I interpreted it.
But how do we discount that one person? Because that one person could, in fact, be someone that's really searching for help, and hearing this from this huge streamer sends them off on this spiral, and they do similar to what happened with the Dave Chappelle skit, and they end up doing bad things. It's like, how can you discredit that?
I don't think they were
you can say that
particularly
about
rude either.
You can say that about any chatter, though. Like,
Exactly.
If someone's like, I'm horrible to people in my chat.
Exactly.
Like, it's, but yeah,
You should stop being a horrible person then, Lonerbox.
Well,
Come on.
the problem
it's
is,
pretty
right?
performative,
People,
but yeah.
if you're a streamer and this is also kind of what you sign up for, and I'm not like condoning what he did, but you get 1 million people taking pot shots at you at your chat. Some of it's joking, right? Some of it isn't. And when you're getting nonstop criticism for something you think you're in the right in, right? And you're getting it like as a swarm, like people going back and forth like that with their chatter is kind of like, it's kind of like the social normal on the platform, if I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but he didn't do something that was like extraordinarily out of the ordinary for Twitch.
So you're okay with sharing that standard across the board for similar situations such as that one?
No, I don't think he responded appropriately. I just don't. The reaction I've seen seems hyperbolic to what actually happened. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay. But
I guess at this
sorry, I'm
point-
sorry. I feel this is like super generous. Like, it's quite
Exactly.
clear what the implication is when he's saying, "I hope your life continues to be as miserable as it is
Oh.
now." People are acting like, look, if he was just kicking off, whatever. But this is like quite a targeted comment that clearly is made towards someone. And then 2 weeks later, he's going and buying a fucking Porsche. Like, that's disgusting. Like, this is shocking. And I'm not looking to like cancel the guy. I don't really.
What?
Like, this is fucked.
Wait, okay.
Number
He's
one, wishing misery. Now,
those-
listen, Dylan. Listen,
you
I know you want a
fucking
bit of
with
that Hassan clout. I know you want a bit of that Hassan clout, and that's fine, right?
Wait,
But here's
to
the
be
reality
clear,
of it, right?
I don't know if you think I'm going for the SoundCloud or not. I think you're being ironic, but I don't know for sure though. The thing is, these two things are unrelated. Okay, the Porsche and this moment, they're unrelated.
I think we need to go to the tape of some Chud
I
logic.
don't know why we're connected.
In the larger scheme
okay.
of things, they are
Let me
related.
let me explain how they're related. Listen,
Because
Dylan, I
Hassan is
appreciate.
a brand. The brand said something on a stream and it impacted his community in a certain way. Then the brand went and did a certain thing. They are related.
Oh, come on. That's not okay. So what you're saying is he did a bad thing here and a separate bad thing here. Therefore, these things
No.
are related.
It
Let me explain it to you.
emphasizes it to certain people.
I think that's a huge stretch.
This is the angle that I'm coming at it with. Okay, the fact that he is wishing misery upon people that watch him because they lightly criticize him, while weeks later he's going out and fucking splashing out on some posh Porsche. This is what I say when I say he's a fraud and he's mugging people off. And I see the Assam Simpson chat are coping pretty hard about this. Keep defending someone that will never know you exist, I guess. Good luck with that.
I've seen you say worse things to your chat all the time. You are somebody who literally bullies the fuck out of their chatters on a constant basis. I would even say you go further than.
But they
most
like
streamers.
it though. They come back for it. I love going to Chud's chat.
I don't know if this has this ever happened to any of you guys.
Chud's chat even knows I'm right on this, and I'll ask Chud's chat.
Like, I want to know if this is the same with you guys. Like, I am quite mean to my chat, and very often one of them will DM me like really anxious, as if they're worried that they upset me, and they went into a fucking like rumination spiral over like whether or not they had a real confrontation with me, and then I have to be like, no, I'm just like it's a bit performative. But like, did that happen to you guys as well? It must.
I have to do that with other
nice
streamers. I have to do that with chatters and
I'm so
streamers.
scared to be mean to chat. No.
I have to deal with this shit all the time as a tech reviewer. You'd think I'd be just a bunch of nerds and we're talking about computers and stuff, but no, I deal with all the toxic bullshit that goes on here, and it's sad, and I really wish that people would not be freaking this evil and vile on freaking internet, man.
I'm sorry, but there's a difference between being me. Oh, sorry, you go, Merrick.
So I would say that like I do think that we have like a huge toxicity problem in our spaces, and I don't think that it would be inappropriate to say that he is one of the largest figures in streaming, and like maybe you could make a case that it's probably not okay to talk to your chatters that way, considering the like considering the severity of the comment that was leveled at him. I can see you making a case for that, because if I recall correctly, that person was like, hey, look, I'm a trans person. I saw the debate. I don't feel like you did the best you could, and I really wish that you had researched more. So from what I saw and what I know of this comment, it was pretty polite, actually. So I think to go off on that level when you're one of the largest streamers in this space, and for everyone to be like, no, that's totally fine, that's a little weird to me, to be honest, that we're all sitting here being like, it's totally okay to talk to people that way. That makes me uncomfortable. Now, do I think that it was targeted because that person was a trans person and that he was saying you should be as miserable as you are now? I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, but like, should we really be normalizing that level of toxicity by the largest
was that
streamer on the
polite?
platform?
I don't think so. I think that's definitely an instance. Like, I don't know what it says about his whole brand, because like loads of streamers talk like that. But if you're just going to take it, like, how is this as a response to that criticism? And it's like a really bad response, like really, really bad. It implies so much. It implies like insensitive. It implies like not only insensitivity and all that, but also like him. It implies that Hassan is like very fragile about criticism. It implies that he's like can't handle like the idea that he's being told that he's wrong. It's like, yeah, it implies a lot. So it's a really bad response.
I don't think he responded well to the criticism. I agree with Merritt. I just don't think I don't think it's transphobic. I just think it's like a bad response to criticism that was pretty mean, and he shouldn't have done it. Like, I don't have a problem with you treating, like, there are people that I feel like if walking to your chat, you can treat like that. If someone comes into your community or something and they start just insulting you or like throwing things around, stuff like that, or if you could just, you can a lot of times also tell somebody's like they're fucking with you, like they're being as pedantic as physically possible, just being a contrarian for contrarian's sake, then maybe like I could see that type of behavior towards that. But this person like this person didn't do anything like that. So I don't think it was appropriate. I just don't think it was transphobic.
The thing is like, yeah, of course, we'll get spicy with our chat and we're all mean and stuff like that. But I think the problem is you're viewing this in a very charitable way, which is it was nothing to do with the fact this person was trans. This comment was about, I hope your life continues to be as miserable as it is now, or something like that. And I just think that that's a very clear line for, like, why would he say that, something that specific? He recognized they were trans.
F Seattle, you just said everyone tell Dylan he isn't as smart as Destiny. See if he's nice. I want you to know, I hope you are suffering for the rest of your life as much as you are suffering right now. You absolute dumbass. Okay, continue.
Wow.
But yeah, like listen, like I don't have a problem with being like mean or anything like that. You know, Hassan has been mean loads of times, and I've never really cared. I've just been like, God, he was a bit fucking harsh there. But this is a more specific thing where I think he said something quite specific, gesturing towards them being trans. If you don't agree with that analysis, that's fine. And I just think people are being very charitable to the guy, and there's people that were like, deep throat Hassan all day long about how fucking great he is, like this Noah Samson guy. But then where's the critique of behavior like this? I don't know. Maybe people don't know about it. Maybe people are being super generous and are like, it's nothing to do with being trans. Yeah, I think it's just shitty behavior.
Okay, well, hold on. So I think that the reason why I'm hesitant to go, oh, that was transphobic. The reason why I'm hesitant to do that is because he has spoken up for trans advocacy. Like I think that if there was a history of him saying transphobic there might be, and if there is and I don't know about it, I'm really sorry.
I mean, what
but,
he
but I do
said.
think we should give
Wait.
the benefit of the
What he
doubt,
just
right?
said might be construed as transphobic.
No,
Oh,
but
yeah,
what I'm saying
definitely.
is if he
Yeah.
had
I'm not
a
saying he's a
history of
transphobe.
transphobic before, then I think it would be more reasonable to go, okay, perhaps we should interpret this in a transphobic way. But if someone doesn't have a history of being transphobic and they say something that
It's a
is
spectrum.
open for interpretation like that, it
Spectrum
really
of
could mean,
transphobia.
well, it might not even be
There we go.
transphobia is my
It's
point.
a spectrum. I got it.
No, I'm saying it might not even be transphobia. So if someone has exhibited transphobic behaviors in the past, then it might be more reasonable to look at this and go, oh, he must have meant you're miserable because you're a trans person. Whereas we can look at it right now and reasonably go,
So you're just being charitable, like what Chud Logic was saying. That's not a good take.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, like, we can say that it's a bad, horrible thing to say, but I'm not sure if there is evidence for it being transphobic. And when we're labeling people as phobic, I think that there should be a reason why. There should be a good foundation for why we slap those labels on people or say this could be some sort of phobic thing.
So
That's
are
all.
you
say
are you
maybe
willing
that,
to be?
like, in
Go ahead.
outcome, like consequentially, like the consequences of it is like it had the optics of transphobia. It could have like had a transphobic effect. It could have made someone actually feel like targeted for being trans, because that's the kind of thing transphobes say to trans people.
But I think the
definitely not
effects and
intent.
intention are different.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think we agree that the effect is it could be transphobic, like,
Yes.
very clearly, but
that doesn't mean
the
the
intent
intention
is not,
was.
because the intent
Right.
is like, this is a very generic thing that I'll say to a chatter, like, miserable exist, like that's just what a fucking millionaire is going to say to a chatter. Yeah.
So this goes back to the C-word discourse, right? The intent of what the person says really does matter here, and should he have been banned for that?
Sure, and I think you can make that argument too. I definitely think you can say, hey, even if you didn't mean for this to be transphobic, should there be consequences for you regularly speaking to your chatters this way? And I think that's a separate conversation that you actually could have. Yeah.
The thing is like,
the severity of what he said was pretty spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking, like, maybe there's disagreement on that. I'm not looking for like consequences as such. It's just like I feel that, like, my big issue is there's people who profess themselves to be extremely woke and they speak out about these issues when it's like a big edgy streamer doing it. But when Hassan engages in this sort of behavior, it's like crickets, and they'll just focus entirely on the the good shit Hassan does and the good shit Hassan says.
Yeah, I don't doubt those people exist, Chud. I'm just wondering if, like, are you identifying anyone in this room, or is it just like that's what people are
No,
like?
sorry, none of you at all. It's more of a general frustration that, like, and because I'm not looking to cancel the guy. I don't give a shit about that, and I can't anyway, even if I wanted to. It's just more so highlighting that there's like a level of inconsistency there. When there's clout at play, when there's clout on the table, people will avoid criticizing or going after a big streamer. No one here. Everyone's being fairly reasonable about it. But people will avoid going after a big streamer because it could harm their clout. And you've got, like FD Signifier, for example, was begging Hassan for clout on Twitter the other day. And he's someone that's been very critical of like some of the harmful isms that exist in BreadTube, and it just is a real inconsistency to me. And I just wish that people would be a bit more consistent to go, well, if I'm going to be super critical of this person, I should apply the same critiques this way too. That's it.
So what would FD say? Like, I was going to talk to Hassan, but then I saw you had a transphobic rant. Batters. So now
we're taking
a hashtag stand against Hassan.
I mean, FD tried to, say, "Oh, Hassan, let's talk," and Hassan said, "No, I don't want to." It's kind of funny, but
Funny,
I think that
I'm seriously asking you, what should he have done then instead?
I mean, the thing is like, I don't really. It's not like I'm saying like you need to like do anything. It's just to highlight that there's an inconsistency where there's a lot of critique and focus on like the edgy boy streamers or whatever. But then when it comes to like the ones that have got all the clout, all of a sudden they're fucking Stevie Wonder. It's like, what the fuck's going on?
It's not that difficult to like figure out though. Like for example, like if you look at Destiny versus Hasan, right? Destiny is somebody who constantly like fucking goes fucking edgy as fuck when engaging with this chat, with engaging with other people. If he thinks he's get hit, he's gonna hit back, and he's gonna hit back 10 times harder. That's always how he engages. And through him doing these different things, whether it be in the stealthy discourse with the retarded child comment, whether it would be with like the stuff of him typing in his chat about fucking Doe's suicide attempt, right? Whether it be any of that shit, right? Every time he does something like that, another group of people fucking hate Destiny, right? And that group grows every single time he does something like that, and he grows into a mob. Where then if Destiny fucks up at all, right, they're gonna be on his ass. He's gonna see it in the DMs, he's gonna see it on the ads, he's gonna see it in all these things. And Hasan, even if he's fucked up in the past, right, and he's done bad things too, we've all done bad things, he just doesn't do things that piss off the same people that Destiny pisses off. The things Hasan does that pisses people off more consistently is right-wingers. That's why most of the time when you see Hasan trending is because people are angry about his fucking house, because they're like, oh, capitalist, really, socialist, fake, or it's about the car discourse, right? Or it's about one of those things. They just piss off different groups of people because one more consistently does things to piss off like a certain group of people, and so he has grown like a hate base.
Well, I think there's even a schism in lefties too. Like you mentioned right-wingers, but it's also like Hasan tends to have, I think, more kind of like just USA bad when it comes to a lot of his foreign policy takes, which aligns with a lot of the people. Because I think it's interesting that Chud brought this up. Like you can see this phenomenon on Twitter as well, right? Like there's a lot of clicks where you can't sneeze the wrong way without people absolutely jumping down your throat. And we see this with people like Vosh, right? Like even when Vosh is not being hyperbolic and super inflammatory, he gets clipped out of context. People are fucking horrible to him. But when other people do things that are, other leftists do things that are far worse, we don't hear a peep from those crowds, right? So I think that Hasan has also signaled his support for a lot of things that don't piss off a lot of the leftists who are more prone to making a big fucking stink about stuff like this, and that's another reason why he gets away with stuff like this. And
so can I put the shoe on the other foot? If there was an equally as prominent of a person on a platform that said an equally as aggressive of a statement towards a person in the chat that had the exact same situation with the exact same response, are y'all willing to say that's okay, you're good to go, my friend, keep on
Like, and if this was any other streamer, would I change my standards?
on the right, conservative, far right guy?
It was the conservative. I think it doesn't even. If I could change it from like a far right person.
No, you can't change it because Hasan is considered a socialist. He might be center socialist, more conservative socialist, or extreme socialist, but he is of the socialist end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So an equally opposite person on the opposite end of the spectrum said the exact same things to the exact same person on the exact same stream with the exact same audience and platform.
I feel like I would generally have the same response. I do think I would probably be more suspicious, just due to somebody's history, because somebody's history can impact on how you view somebody's actions, right? Like if somebody if Mr. Ponzi, right, comes out with a new NFT, Mr. Ponzi's history is going to impact on whether I think it's a rug pull, you know what I mean? Whether if it's like somebody else who has a more squeaky clean record. But I would generally still have the same reaction.
Okay. As long as y'all are willing to be consistent, and I see this across
just me. I don't
all
speak for everybody. I
platforms,
just speak for me.
I'm cool with it.
yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty fucking abhorrent to talk to someone that way, period. Yeah.
Because that's the thing that... Sorry, go ahead.
The only thing I'll caveat is, and it's very small, is I think if say like Ben Shapiro did it in the same context as like Hasan, I'd probably say, well, this is actually like very indicative of your broader pattern of behavior against trans people. But yeah, I mean, that's... But
he should still be able to say it. and not get banned or
Oh yeah, no,
temporarily
I'm not
suspended.
talking about getting banned. No, if Hassan got banned for that, I think it's funny though. I wouldn't care, just because some people need to be taken down a peg. I feel like if it was someone like Destiny saying that, I'd maybe I always feel like I'd maybe take pot shots at people like him a bit more often, like on Twitter and all that, just because I feel like maybe he should that's someone who should probably know better. Like I expect them to know better, or maybe to it's more likely that he would look at that.
Well, we would expect Hassan to know better too, right?
I don't know. I think Hassan's a bit silly.
Listen, I get it, right? Like, I'm just to be clear, just to make it clear, I'm not saying like Hassan is a mega transphobe or anything like that. That's not my position at all. It really is just highlighting that like this is something that he did say, which some people were saying isn't in any way referencing the trans thing. That's fine if that's your interpretation. I view it differently. And yeah, it just it seems like it just went under the radar. No one really talked about it, and the fact that it was in response to someone criticizing him fairly for when he completely fucked up a debate with a conservative about trans issues. The same Hassan who now is saying debates are shit and stupid and pointless. Funny that, isn't it? I just think he's a walking, talking inconsistency on every fucking angle you can look at. And I just think people are not wise to it. They're sucked into this parasocial relationship. They give all this attention and simping to someone who doesn't even know they exist. And it's kind of sad, but there we go.
I'm trying to think of contentions, but I feel like, do you think with maybe Hassan I know Hassan simps are weird, but if is it not maybe partly because a lot of people don't really see Hassan as a political advocate in the same way that they would see someone like Vosh or Destiny or Ben Shapiro or anyone?
Hassan presents himself as a political advocate. That's the problem. Well,
it's pretty much on his sleeve.
I mean, he was on the Young Turks network. I think it's pretty hard to remove.
It seemed Hassan was quite keen on debate when he could use it to benefit his position when he's debating people at Politicon. But seems like he's sort of changed on that more recently. Now he's got a big old pile of viewers to sit on in his ivory tower.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going to talk about the Porsche. Was this actually for?
Am I wrong?
No,
am I wrong?
No, I think Hassan is a piece of shit, but I mean, that's just my personal opinion of him. No, I think you're right.
I guess I wish that he would actually do more research if he is going to do debates. That Christian Walker debate was really painful to get through because, I mean, you think about the number of people that watched that and the tier of arguments that he was putting forth, I was cringing the entire time. It was awful.
It's weird because I think I watched half of it, right? And I watched half of it and it was Hassan's upload. And from that, I was like, oh, he's performing quite well. I don't know if he must have edited it or something, or it didn't include certain parts.
It was so bad.
So here's the thing, and this is to leftists here on the panel. It's why do we keep advocating for this guy to be the successful poster child of socialism? We need better representation because he's doing bad. He's not.
I don't know how many of us are calling.
What do you mean? We didn't all sit down and have a vote.
Y'all need to sit down and have a vote.
And it doesn't matter if we sit down and have a vote.
Y'all are all under the umbrella of Twitch.
The reality of the situation is Hassan streams a lot, works pretty hard at what he does, has succeeded, and now he is what he is. Now we can all sit here and be oh, Hassan, he needs to go away. We're going to all vote Hassan out. Soy. We can do that. But he's here whether we like it or not. It's not like he's going to disappear. It's not like we can just choose if someone's a poster child or not. And that's the thing. Most poster childs for movements don't choose to be a poster child for a movement. It just kind of happens.
They get ousted.
For what it's worth.
They get ousted for what it's not representing the ideal.
For what it's worth, I don't know if you're conservative, but for what it's worth, conservatives
I'm wearing a camo hat. Come on, dude.
They deserve a lot better than their poster childs. Your Ben Shapiro's, Jordan Peterson's. Fucking hell, Jordan Peterson's losing his fucking mind, in 4K all the time now. And conservatives I've spoken to conservatives on these panels who would do a better job than these people. So yeah, they could point that both ways.
Hey, here's a completely and totally non-contentious suggestion that everyone will like. Why don't we make Vosh the new poster child? He's the second biggest. We'll just have him then. We'll switch from Hassan to Vosh. How do you feel about that?
Go for it. If y'all want to start adding subs to Vosh's numbers over on YouTube, because I think he's still banned, right? And let's no,
Oh,
he's
on
banned here on
Twitch,
Twitch. Yeah. Let's see what vehicle choice he makes and what kind of other house he decides to buy.
Wanna know what?
Then we can judge him
I don't
by how
think
his
that.
success
Look,
is.
the problem is, right, is that most of the people that would be the perfect poster child that all the like bow tie like socialists would like, right? Most of them aren't putting in the same amount of work, aren't entertaining, okay? They're awkward as fuck when they stream. They don't put in the same amount of editing when it comes to getting people under them and on their payroll. They don't have the same media training that Hassan probably has, right? What do you mean start? You think I could just clap like give me the perfect lefty commentator and he just appear? I run a recruitment show.
Work, man.
I literally wait. I'm the only one here who actually does that work. I run a recruitment show where we bring on people every Sunday who have basically no experience in panel scenes, no experience in political Twitch, and we have them engage with each other, right? And we see which ones we think are good, and then we put them on the show if we think they may be able to do something. And you want to know what? 95% of them don't. And 90% of the people going to recruitment show fail and they suck. And I'm just being honest, right? I put them on
about those
to give
people,
them
man.
that chance. And the thing is,
we're not talking about
so
those
yeah, what I'm
people.
saying is it's not as simple as, well, let's just replace Hassan with somebody else who's just as big a stream.
I
It isn't
think
that
we
simple.
need to put up
who's
Dylan
making these
Burns
decisions?
and Chud Logic as the two new.
You need better
figureheads.
movers and
We
shakers.
need SDL. We need a data male, someone who's not going to
Oh my
lose the
God.
debate because they've read every study ever.
Oh my god!
I have no personal conflict here.
No, none at all.
SDL's
interest.
arguments for gun control are crap.
Turk, when you see
I'm gonna
like Ben
call him
Shapiro,
Frederick.
Turk,
I've
Turk,
already
when you-
talked to him about it.
Turk, when you see like I don't know, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk, like all these, like, do you think like, yeah, that's my that's who I want to be at the front of the American conservative movement, or do you think you guys could do better as well?
I would say Ben Shapiro is actually pretty based and actually is a pretty decent conservative. There's definitely takes that Matt Walsh makes that are a little not the best way to frame an argument and towards the delivery. And I do agree, like, other people on the right are not the best out there. And I wouldn't disagree with you on that one.
What do you think of Jordan Peterson right now? Like, what's happening to him right now?
Does he consider himself to be a conservative right winger?
He is.
He's
He was
tried
like
to stay
he was
kind
the
of in
most
this
Googled.
ridiculous realm.
I mean, he was like the most Googled academic on earth, and his audience were basically conservatives, right? Like,
Because us
leftists did not
conservatives
like
have mental problems, and we look for people that are psychiatrists that have good books to sell.
I'm not sure if that's why he got popular, but maybe.
Can I ask you a question, Turk? Do you think
No,
Tucker?
you can't.
Oh,
Unless
okay.
it's computer related.
Oh.
Go
You're
ahead,
about to
man.
ask a
Well,
good
Tucker
question.
Carlson's a robot, right?
Well, I was
So
about to ask.
away.
Do you think Tucker Carlson is a good representation of the right wing in America?
Probably not.
Probably not.
He's
You think
probably
he's more right wing?
So why don't you just get a better guy then?
Well, there are other better guys that are in the wings trying to get into that spot. Jesse
why are they
Waters
not
just
even
got a
close?
spot, and
Why-
he's not even that
I don't
great
even-
either.
I don't even know who
Ben
that is.
Shapiro is being going
Yeah.
up in the alt media space. I mean, there's other people trying to take that spot. And
Do you think Ben Shapiro is the best representative of the right?
That's a rough one.
he's got a good
The evil
angle.
heart of the Palestinian people. Like,
You
I
mean
don't
the-
know, man.
The just move when your houses are underwater guy? That guy?
What I'm getting, what I'm talking that was a quote from a Ben Shapiro article, by the way. It's nobody clipped that shit out of context.
Yeah, that's a very real quote.
But the thing is that gets me is like, it's not as simple as like, oh, we get the best representative and we pick that and they're that. It's not like this isn't an election, right? Where you all elect the best representative for the board, okay? We're in the anti-work Reddit, whether you like it or not, okay? People get big if they get big for a crazy amount of factors. They could have outside backers. They could have a good personality. They could just look pretty. It could be any number of stupid reasons why somebody gets popular. And once they're popular, like, you can like sit here and you can whine about it, or you could like, I guess, try to get more popular than them. But when it comes to Hassan, nobody else has even gotten fucking close, right? Who's the
and that's-
Who's the next closest? Who?
I have no
literally
clue.
Bosch.
I don't watch you guys.
It is
The thing
Vosh
is
or
the
Destiny.
community decides who is the air quote popular one. If people would actually put weight behind the stuff that Hassan has claimed, this conversation that they had and the outburst that actually happened, if people would put weight into that and actually say, man, that's a pretty bad take. I don't like what he's saying. Or, hey, you just bought a car. I thought you were a socialist. I thought you were supposed to do that thing. If people would actually start putting weight behind the actions that this person is doing and started representing that with views and clicks and traffic and all that stuff, maybe there might be other people that would start filling that void. There are people on the right that are trying to fill that void. Tucker Carlson took over a huge spot that Hannity and the guy that other person left.
Bill O'Reilly.
This entire process is cyclical, dude. And if y'all want to see Hassan not be the poster child for this cause, y'all got to start pushing that, and y'all got to start not watching his streams.
And when we say like poster child for the cause,
It was a general.
what do we
It was a
mean?
general statement.
Yeah, because I would say if anyone's the poster child for socialism America, it's probably AOC, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah, Bernie AOC.
As much Bernie AOC, there's somebody with much more national recognition than Hassan.
And now you're talking political leadership. So it's like, how do you want to vote out AOC? Well, you could redistrict her. We'll see how that pans out. You could also see how the entire Progressive Caucus handles the 22 midterms, and you could see how it happens with the 24 elections. It's like, we can talk this all day, dude.
I mean, comparing AOC and Bernie, or even Hassan, like, okay, so Hassan's comments to that trans person, like, you said Ben Shapiro was pretty based. His entire career was built upon him humiliating college students who had no media training and unequal control of the mic. Like, it's kind of scrappy, isn't it?
That's another thing. Like, you just being, like, you can
Hassan just yelled at someone on his stream that just posted a straight fact about a debate. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and we've given our comments on that. I just want to know what you think about how Ben, like, this was Ben Shapiro. This is how he got
if you
famous.
wanted to equate the two, you could say Ben Shapiro going and having these conversations with ill-equipped, uneducated college folk as the person in Hassan's chat that is ill-equipped and unprepared, and he just outbursts on it.
Just to be, I mean, okay, but that's not like Hassan's like modus isn't shouting at trans people in his chat, whereas Ben Shapiro, his appeal was humiliating unprepared college students with unequal control over the mic, right?
And that is the nature of the platform that he was given at the time, and that's the way it happened. And that's just as much as I like Robe Man, I disagree that the past is important in how people go forward.
Do you like Robe Man? Genuinely?
I definitely didn't like his appearance tonight. He did pretty bad, but as a funny dude, it was
entertaining. It was definitely entertaining.
I'll give him that. Yeah, I will definitely give him that.
Whew.
But there was definitely times, and I'm not an unreasonable conservative. It's like, Merrick, I had many not conversations, but topics I agreed with you with. I wish that schools would have more counselors so that we could address more of these problems and talk about them and not necessarily push people towards a particular outcome, but at least equip them and guide them through a process that helps them to have conversations and not just hold it up in their own bodies, because that's not healthy.
What you said about your kids with the princess thing was pretty based.
That's cool.
Do you think American conservatives deserve a better leader than Trump?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Nice one. Okay.
So, okay, you said something about Tucker Carlson not being representative of the average American conservative. Do you think that he is more extreme, or do you think that he is just different, or like how do you think he relates to your average conservative?
I wouldn't say that I am the best answer for that question. I would view him as being more extreme because some of the stuff he says is pretty extreme. A reasonable person probably could agree with that. But a lot of his stuff that's being said about media and BLM stuff can be considered by mainstream conservatives as being an accurate reporting. But yeah, he definitely does say some stuff that's like a little too far-fetched that I don't agree with. And that's why I wish more conservatives would not just watch Fox News, because that's not a good way to consume news.
So you're actually one of the this might be a little like forward, but you're actually one of the more like polite reasonable conservatives I've interacted
Man,
with
look
on
at
this
that.
platform. It's actually
Look at
really
that.
nice. Yeah.
It's amazing when you actually try to have a conversation and not demean someone and actually like attack them. You can actually have a conversation.
True, but I
Some
do
people
think
deserve to be attacked.
well, one, some people deserve to be attacked, and two, I think that like people are picked to come on these platforms because they are like the most outlandish or the loudest or like they have a character that they're playing.
That's why you need to start watching Counterpoints, Tiberius.
I love
You need
Counterpoints.
to be watching I forget his name. Osiris. There's a bunch of centrists that actually like to have conversations, that have real weight and actually talk about stuff, and we don't fight each other. The center is a good place to be.
You've been very quiet, Chud.
Yeah, I'm just taking it all in. Listen, it's been fun shitting on Hassan a bit and getting the Simps coping. But yeah, now we've drifted off into right wing stuff. I don't know. I just think that
Because the right wing is the best wing.
I think that I always find it like if a lot of people are criticizing someone or calling someone out, I kind of think, well, they're being called out already. I'll add to it if I think it's necessary. But it's just kind of weird when you see someone like everyone knows Ben Shapiro is a fucking transphobe. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that you're wrong to point that out, Lonerbox. I think it was relevant, but like, yeah, I think that sorry, it's late as well. It's like 5 a.m. I should probably go, to be honest. I should probably just go and go to bed, to be perfectly honest with you.
Simps are weird, eh?
Yeah, I mean, that's every streamer's got like parasocial simps and stuff,
My Simps are pretty cool.
Yeah. Are you sure? Listen, I'm sorry. I need to go to bed. I'm feeling a bit delirious.
Night,
but
Chud.
listen,
Good night,
it was good to talk to you all. Thanks for talking about that. I'll catch you all later, okay?
See you, man.
Bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Laters.
Okay.
Later.
See you all later.
I'm probably
Love y'all.
gonna dip as well.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's like
so
11
much. You guys are all amazing. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. If anybody's having any Super Bowl parties or anything.
I
hope
hope
you
the
guys suffering
truckers.
lasts
I hope
forever.
the truckers prevent the Super Bowl.
Okay. Holy shit. Next Friday, we'll have a different show. Oh my god, what a mess. What a mess of a program we just had. Hey, you. Yes, you. Right there. You. I am starting a Patreon. I know you guys have been asking for it on the YouTube crowd for a while, since usually it's just the Twitch people who could support me financially directly, but we're finally making a means for you guys to do so as well. And that's not all. You can support the #1 cyber terrorist, mover and shaker, Vince McMahon of Twitch politics. How? By donating to this Patreon and getting benefits like movie nights, special Discord roles, announcements at the end of the video of how much you have supported this war criminal Dylan Burns TV, and much, much more. Okay, not much more, okay? I only have limited means, but more than that, I can assure you. And if you support the Patreon, you will have my deep-hearted appreciation from the bottoms of my soul that you are truly a mover and shaker. Thanks so much for your Patreon money in advance. I will use it to continue to fund the liberal elitist agenda.